Oopsie doopsie. It's okay.
Like, it doesn't get you, like...
Stop yelling, Tamara. God, you're so loud. Here we go. Okay. So did you see, just to start us off this morning, good morning, everyone. Hello. Yes, I know this is going to look very different today, and I apologise in advance.
Yeah. Things are weird.
Things are weird.
We'll get through it.
We're going to get through it. Together, we will get through it.
With the strength of friendship on our side, we will make it through this odd-looking stream. I promise you all.
With the power of the void. Our powers combined. We are two girls, one garbage can. Did everybody...
Checked, and it's working for streaming on my channel, so that's good.
Yay! I was going to ask, did everybody see the... I'm just going to jump on Twitch and see if that's... see if that's working. I feel like I need to Twitch every time I say Twitch. So recently, it was a little while ago now, but there was a lovely... who was it? Congress? Was it in Congress? They were doing... Oh, I got an alert that Maddie Mohawk is live. Excellent. Idaho Representative Vito Barberi, he's a white man, so I'm allowed to say his name incorrectly. He didn't know that the uterus and the digestive system were not able to interact. Because the openings are close together, because the exits are close together, he didn't realise that. He asked the question why it wouldn't be possible to just swallow a pill to do like an ultrasound the same way they do for a colonoscopy. And the doctor explained that it's not a pill, they swallow a camera that travels through the digestive tract and takes photos and then uploads those photos. So it's not a pill, it's a camera. And then after she clarified that it was a camera, which is not a medicine, he then asked, well, why couldn't you do the same sort of thing for the uterus? Mm-hmm. And she had to explain, because it's not possible to swallow something and have it enter the vagina. Like, she had to explain that. Hi, Peter!
Hey, Peter, how you doing, mate? I just... How do these people get jobs in politics without the most basic level understanding of, like...
I know.
This is year 9 science shit.
But this is why we keep saying that we want to do this podcast and explain to people how little these lawmakers know, because everyone seems to assume when we complain that they're doing the wrong thing, everyone seems to assume that they know something we don't know.
Yeah, they must be the expert or they wouldn't be in politics. Peter, I'm sorry to hear that you've been better. I can only assume that something's gone a bit sideways for that response, mate.
I was going to say, something we can do, anything we can help with. If you want to share, if you don't want to share, you can also
if there's
DM.
Anything we can help with, let us know.
Yeah.
As Tamara said, if you don't want to share, DM either one of us, both of us, whichever works.
It's been a few weeks.
Just a rough few weeks.
That sounds like... I mean...
And the alt-right. Okay.
And the alt-right, yeah.
Right.
I was going to say, that sounds like it's a response to the political system that we're... Hey, good news. I'm sharing this good news with everybody. Algerian boxer Khalif is suing. She's suing all of the assholes who did all the asshole friends. Yes. So Iranian boxer Khalif is selling.
Yeah, her lawyer is doing an investigation on who were the instigators and who
they can sue.
Pushed it so that they can go after the people who were most responsible. And she's Moroccan, isn't she? Imani Khalif?
She's listed everywhere as being Algerian.
Sorry, Algeria. Yeah, not Morocco. My bad.
Oh, sorry. I was like, I don't know. She's been listed everyone as Algerian, so I've been saying Algerian. But if she's not Algerian, I'm going to apologise because I
No,
said
you're
it
absolutely right.
50
Algerian
times.
is correct. I had a brain fart moment.
And the drag queen from the Torch Run too. Yes, I'm so happy about it. What the fuck, bro? I'm
Sugar-free solo.
stop stealing my ideas. This was left over from the sleepover. I had a slumber party. I didn't have a slumber party. My child had a slumber party. I suffered through my child's slumber party.
Yeah, that's usually how it goes, let's be honest.
I was trying to chat to the parents when they came to do pickup. And they're like, oh, what time do they fall asleep? I said, best guess, about 2 o'clock. And they were looking at me like I fell asleep at 1:30 and woke up at 2:30 like, why is the house quiet?
Yeah. Yep.
Went tearing through the house and I found them all in a pile in the lounge room and threw a blanket over them and went, cool, everyone's asleep. Everyone's alive. One of the kids thinks tea looks good. Honestly, so my ex, my children's father was here for the sleepover because he agreed to stay over and help out with it, which was very helpful. And he was sort of having a conversation with me because he said, at what age are we going to have to chat with our daughter about her brother's friends? And I said, oh, yeah, now's probably the right time, just watching them, watching her, listening to them, listening. And he kind of went, oh, what, really? Like, I felt a bit uncomfortable a couple of times with some of the stuff that was going on, but I was like, oh, don't be weird about it. You're the one who's going to make it weird. Don't be weird about it. And I'm like, no. They do start noticing things, and you don't have to have the big sex talk with them, but you do have to have a conversation with them about other people might want to do things, but just because they want to do we've had a discussion about private parts and all of that, that discussion's been had plenty of times.
We're in ads, apparently.
Oh, we're in ads. Fuck you, ads. Yeah. Yeah, we've had the consent talk lots and lots of times. Like, the consent talk is one we have daily with the children. It never stops.
I am so glad that parents these days, or at least parents who are paying attention to their kids' lives, are making sure that consent is at the forefront of conversations, because it wasn't something that was at the forefront of conversations when I was younger. And I started noticing women and being noticed by women when I was about 10 or 11 years old.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which...
I was about 8.
Weird now that I think back on it, being a 10 or 11-year-old and having older women specifically
mention you,
commenting
notice
on
you.
my appearance in a way that's not just like, that young, oh, he's going to be a heartbreaker when he's older,
Yeah.
This assumption that you're going to grow up to be a rabid fuckboy.
You're special,
because
Belle. You're special.
That's what that means, right?
Yeah.
He's going to be a heartbreaker. Like, he's going to fuck around, bang a bunch of people, ruin relationships. Like,
or he's going to be gay and all the girls are going to be brokenhearted that he's...
Well, in that case, if that's how they meant it, they were half right.
half right. I'm going to make a quick coffee just quickly.
Absolutely, buddy.
I'm not cutting off this conversation, but just making... But yeah, I remember I was my daughter's age the first time someone explained to me that... Not explained to me even, but the first time that I realised someone had made a comment and I went home and said to my mum that I found this comment really weird, and they made out like girls and boys... Like, girls had to wear tops even if boys didn't. And my mum had to explain to me that, yes, boys and girls are actually different. And it's like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, we look exactly the same. Why can I not run around topless if he's allowed to? We have the exact same body structure.
Yeah.
I was 8.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was the problem, is that I was having that conversation with my mum because someone had made a comment about my body at 8, and I was like, I look exactly the same as the boys. Why are you making a comment? Like, it just didn't make any sense. And I knew I was, like, I understood that the comparison was between me and the boys, even though they weren't comparing me to the boys. Do you know what I mean? Like, I understood that I was getting that attention because I was not a boy.
Yeah, because
Even
you
though
were
I couldn't
different.
understand it because I looked exactly the same as the boys.
Yep.
Yeah. I was sexualized
Exactly
very
right.
young, yeah.
But yeah, I hit puberty young. Like,
Yeah.
I was maybe 10 years old when it hit for me.
Yeah.
I could have used puberty blockers just so that, like, I wasn't rocking almost a full beard by the time I entered year 15, year 11, age
Yeah.
15, I should say.
There were quite
but
a few
yeah,
boys in my school who did too, like had full beards, and they would go in and buy beer and condoms,
Yeah.
and no one would even ask why.
It's exactly what I did. I was buying
Yeah.
beer and smokes and selling them. I was an enterprising little shit. Like,
My kid has got really bad ingrown hairs all over his face, and I'm just like, what's going on? And I've been trying to figure out, and went to the dermatologist, and the dermatologist said, yeah, he's going to be a hairy kid. You're going to have a kid with a full beard at the age of 12. I'm like, really? Like, because he's had these on his face since he was a baby, and honestly, everyone kept saying to me, oh, he'll grow out of them, he'll grow out of them. No, it hasn't grown out of them. And it's like,
hair
yeah, it's just
follicles
ingrown
have just
hairs.
started ramping. Yeah.
Yeah, and they just started getting worse and worse. And it's like literally every single hair follicle has like 4 hairs coming out of it. That's why they get blocked, because they're just so hairy.
Yep. Sorry, I just saw Peter's comments.
Oh, I know,
Sexualization at a young
yeah.
age, like you'll be pretty when you grow up, or I can't wait till you're older. Brother.
Yeah.
Like,
I had this conversation with a friend yesterday where I said, it's bizarre to me because I look back at Zac Efron in High School Musical and I think to myself, what the fuck were those parents thinking? Why were their High School Musical mums? Why were their High School Musical mums lusting after Zac Efron? I look at him and I'm like, "Ugh, he looks like a 12-year-old. He looks like a
that is a
fucking
child.
child. He's a child.
yeah.
Like, that's a child.
Great. And it oh God, it fucks me up. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I know that, like, the sexualization of young girls is much more intense than it is with young boys. But
It seems to be a lot more allowable for young boys.
The
Yeah.
sexualization of young boys is much less talked about
Yeah.
and much less recognized. Like, at least society sees that young girls are being sexualized by people.
Yeah.
Society doesn't care that
Ugh.
young men are being sexualized. You know?
Yeah.
And
It's a patriarchal society. It's
Yeah.
if you've got a virile young boy, that's good. That you want lots of offspring for your family line. Like, who cares if the child who is your child is damaged and traumatized? You just want lots of grandkiddies. Like,
Yep.
that's the patriarchal society coming back to bite us in the ass again. Because
Absolutely.
we talk about young men being this problem in our society, in terms of the way they view young women, but we don't stop to think most of the ways that people behave is because they've been shown. Like, when my kid starts misbehaving or doing something I don't like interrupting his sister constantly, I have to start paying attention to me, because I know he's copying the behaviour he's seeing. So if he's seeing me interrupting him or his sister constantly, or he sees me interrupting his dad constantly, he starts emulating that behaviour. So whenever I see bad behaviour in my kids, the first thing I do is pay attention to how I'm behaving and what I'm doing, because that's usually where it comes from. So for us to be sitting here and going, what?
That is the best way for you to wind up with well-adjusted kids.
Yeah.
Is to first look to yourself.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. The behaviour doesn't come from nowhere, you know, and who do they spend the most time with? Like, I'd like to try and blame the TV or their friends at school, but let's be honest, it's my fucking
nice.
fault. It would be nice, but they don't
just
spend
to
enough
have a
time with those things.
Yeah.
TV gets an hour a day. School gets 8 hours a day. I'm the one they spend their entire fucking lives with. So, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Anyways, you were going to make yourself a coffee.
I was!
and
Fuck!
You were
and
going to have a
cone.
belong.
And a belong.
So you
Behavior
know
is
those
taught.
things.
Yep.
I will enter and change chat while you are doing those things.
Yes. But just quickly before I do go, because I am actually going to go. But yeah, that's exactly the thing. When we look at these boys and we go, young boys just after one thing, okay, but they got to 16 and got told that that was the only thing they should care about. You've been telling them for the last 10 years that that's all they should care about. And then suddenly they take that on and you go, oh, young boys are all the problem. Like, no, you... And again, I'm not sitting here saying, oh, like the boy who raped the girl had a bright future in front of him. I'm just saying as...
Yeah, no, fuck that.
No, fuck that.
'Cause
What I'm
that's
saying...
still a choice.
Yes.
Like,
But when I was date raped, I didn't look at the person who did it and say, you're a monster. I looked at the person and said, you are a product of the environment that you live in that has taught you certain things are allowable because of who you are. And one of those things is if you take a girl on a date, you're allowed to expect sex regardless of how she feels about that. And it doesn't mean I don't blame him, but it does mean that him getting locked up isn't going to change the reason that that happened.
yeah, because the systemic problem still exists within
Exactly.
society's attitudes towards these
Yep.
things.
And whenever we-
and the problem, like, going back to what I was saying about how sexualization of young men is so
Yeah.
under-realized, this, as you said, is a complete problem with being in a patriarchal society.
Yeah.
Because when men get older, or a certain type of men, when they get older, they think back on their childhood and they go, oh, it would have been so dope if
Oh, no,
my
mate,
hot
Frozen.
math teacher was in.
I still blame my cat's father because he's a dick. You're allowed to.
Yeah.
You're allowed to, Belle. Oh, you came
like-
back. You froze. We lost you for a bit there.
Oh, I froze? Oh, my
You
bad.
froze. No, you right as you were about to start talking, you froze. I was like, shit.
All right, let me wind that back.
Oh, he didn't freeze for you guys, just for me.
Freeze food? Okay, dope. Well, I'll recap it for you tomorrow then. Basically, I was saying that the problem with boys being sexualized and it not being recognized as much as young girls is an inherent problem with patriarchy in our society. Because a certain subsect of men look back on their childhood and go, it would have been so cool if my math teacher when I was in year 9 was into me. You know?
Fucking
Like, there is... No, I swear to God, there is a certain group of people who go, oh, but, like, he's 14, he's horny all of the time, he'd be fine with some 35-year-old woman trying to hit on him. You know?
But they're also ignoring the fact that the reason they think they would have been fine with that at 9 is because of the societal messages that they're being delivered.
Yeah.
Like, just because it's the same way that a lot of women feel a lot of guilt after they've had an abortion, not necessarily because there's anything inherently to feel guilty about, but because of the societal expectation. So you go, yeah, I'm fine, that was great, that was awesome. Like...
Yeah. But, like... It also stands to, like, just this constant reshuffling or regurgitation, I should say, of this patriarchal notion that all boys want sex all of the time.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if it's from a peer or somebody who has or holds a dominant position over them. And
I'm
that's
really
just
sorry.
not true. It fucks you up.
No, I'm really,
it
really
fucks you
sorry,
up.
but what? And just going back to like the like Twilight
Dom.
mums for a minute,
Exactly.
like what the fuck? Yeah, exactly.
Exactly what
Where
Dom
was
said.
she when I was here? Like,
Yeah, that's the
she
comments
was-
from grown-ass men.
fucking disgusting.
Yeah.
Going back to these Twilight mums, these High School Musical mums again.
Yes.
Like, the reason I was talking to my friend about it was because I was kind of saying, I can't understand, because we were watching a television show on Stan, you know, the Serpent Queen, about Catherine de Medici, and I was watching it going, it's so funny because there's a couple of guys on this that I'm like, oh, would bang, would bang, would bang. And the number one is like this older salt and pepper, very distinguished looking guy. And I said to my friend who I was watching it with, I remember being a kid and watching Star Trek Voyager and having a massive thing for Captain Chakotay. Like, oh, Captain Chakotay, yeah. And having my mum laugh and just be like, Harry Kim's more your age, and me just being like, he looks like a child. Like, he was a full-grown adult man. I was 15,
Yep.
and I thought he looked like a child.
Yep.
So I actually, whenever I see these women lusting after these young boys, like, even as a teenager, I didn't find the teenagers attractive. I thought they looked like children. Like,
Yeah.
they didn't look like real life teenagers that I knew at school, because the teenagers I knew at school had beards.
Precocious puberty's a motherfucker. That or growing up with a bunch of people with Middle Eastern or, Mediterranean descent.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that.
We're all hairy fucks. Like, a lot of
Lower socioeconomic areas where you grow up as well, you do get a lot of
True.
a lot of culture, so you get a lot of hairy motherfuckers where the culture is.
Wow. That's an interesting study. Like,
Hey, I say that
proportional-
as being one of the hairiest female motherfuckers
Yes.
on the planet.
Yes, love that shit, bud. Fuck shaving, it's too much effort.
Oh, fuck off. Absolutely not. One of our male teachers hooked up with a student the year after they finished.
Yep.
Sorry.
Jesus, that one really got Tam. Yeah, no, that is really fucked up. Like, you know that there was shit going on while she was still in school. And I'm sorry, Tam, if you've still got your headphones on and don't want to hear this, maybe take them off for a moment. 3 years in a row knocked up the girl from my year level. My God. That's rough. Yeah, Tam needs a moment. That one messed her up. Yeah. No, because you just know. And being the youngest kid with a beard who was buying cigs and booze for his older friends, yep, same. They're still together. God damn. Unexpected. Definitely unexpected to hear that. But yeah, going back to what Dom said earlier, looking at the news articles where a teacher sleeps with a male student, the comments from grown men are like, where was she when I was his age? And you're absolutely right, man. It's just a case of, like...
Are we finished?
Yeah, we're done talking about that section, buddy.
Okay. I was going to say, I'll go get my coffee in a second. The kettle's just boiling.
Fuck, that one got you, bud.
Oh, well, my science teacher finally died, but doesn't mean I'm not still traumatized.
True.
Yeah. So for context, I was a brand newbie in high school when my science teacher started to take an unnatural interest in me. Yeah, and I didn't learn much science in school.
Yeah.
You forgot about that? Yeah. That's okay, I never will. I never will until the day I fucking die. Sorry, I'm trying not to get... There's something about teachers that's just... It's a whole nother level of... I'll be right back, sorry.
Yep, no, take your time, buddy. I'm trying to figure out this light so that I don't wind up with the horrific shadows under my face. Let's see if this works. Make it a little bit taller, maybe. Belle, look, it's okay, bud. Like, we were having a discussion about the topic. Unfortunately, one of the places where these deviations can occur are in the school setting, because it has the potential to give predators access to children who they have power over. And it's an awful thing, but, like, you weren't to know because it was part of the same conversation that we were having, you know. It's
yeah.
to the topic. It's not
It
like
was,
you
no.
just dropped a bombshell out of nowhere and fucked Tamara up.
No, you didn't. And again, this is one of the things with triggers, is that I can have this conversation 9 times out of 10 and have it not bother me, and then sometimes something happens and it just fucks with you. So
Yeah.
that kind of fucked with my head a little bit, because one of the things that my science teacher tried to do after I graduate was he kind of stalked me to different jobs.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So I had to work with him when I was working as a travel agent. He tracked me down to use me as his travel agent.
That is fucking gross, dude. Take it.
Yeah.
Goddamn it.
So, and that's the thing I think people don't get, is that it's like this level of obsession that these adults develop for these kids. Like, that's what it is. It's obsession. And then they teach the kid to want that attention. And then their obsession dies out and they become obsessed with somebody else because you age out, and then you're left with all this fucking trauma. And I didn't, I wasn't successfully groomed by this person. So it doesn't, the grooming in itself is traumatic. Like, it doesn't have to go anywhere else for it to be traumatic.
No.
It did.
of
Like, he
course not.
exposed himself to me several times, and like there were other stuff that happened. But the thing that really fucked with my head was the fact that because I told people what he was doing and no one believed me. And then once I was out of his classroom, I wasn't in his school anymore. He no longer had that power over me. Under capitalism, he still had that power over me because I was working in customer service industries where he was a customer, and he could continue finding ways to have that influence and have that power over me.
Yep.
One of the reasons I left the state was because of him, because I got so fucking sick of feeling like I was looking over my shoulder for him just to pop up whenever he...
Dom, you're absolutely right. Trauma is trauma. Your body doesn't understand
Yeah.
levels. It's going to react to trauma. And Peter,
Yeah.
grooming is dreadful. Like,
Oh,
you're
it's
100%
horrendous.
correct. Because at the time when you're a child, at least in my experience, I was a bit of a lonely kid because I moved around a lot, right?
Same.
My family were moving every year, every 2 years at most. I didn't stay in a single school for more than 2 years.
Same, buddy. Never. Didn't
yeah.
stay at a single school. One school I was at for 4 weeks.
Yeah. I think my
And that-
shortest was 1 term.
And that makes us vulnerable. That makes
Yeah,
us a lot
big
more
time.
vulnerable.
Big time, because you don't have a group of people that you can connect with and talk with.
Yep.
You're always having to make new friends. So there were times where I went to schools and I just didn't find anybody to talk to. And so you grow up a little bit of a lonely kid, and when people paid attention to you, regardless of who it was that was paying attention to you or what sort of attention it was, you at least
Yeah.
felt special and wanted at the time. But as
Yep.
you grow up and realise what the fuck was happening, it's like, oh no, that wasn't just somebody paying attention to me, that was somebody trying to influence me into a certain situation. And you're right, like, the trauma just doesn't hit.
Gosh. It's so awful too when it's someone who is in a position, I mean, and it always is, it's like they're never not going to be in a position of trust, at a position of authority, because that's how they're able to get the power that they have. But it's horrendous and it's not fun. And I think the reason, well, obviously because of my own personal experience, but with teachers, it's like you have no choice but to send your child away into this institution for 8 hours a day, where you just have to trust that they're going to care for your kid the same way you would.
Yep.
And that's just not the case. And
Yep.
I remember walking into that classroom on the first day and having the teacher, so he ended up marrying a young lady who looked a lot like me. A lot like me. The marriage wasn't a very happy one. They didn't stay together for very long, but I think it was like a couple of years after I graduated, I found out that they'd gotten married, and I was just like, oh God, why does she have to look so much like me? Why does she have to?
Yep.
Like, it's just... Anywho.
It's just a constant reminder. All right, so I'm going to make an executive decision here.
We're going to do the podcast?
We should move, or at the very least, move away from this topic because there is a lot of
spiraling,
triggering situations. Both yourself, myself, Peter, Dom, have all expressed that they've experienced this. So let's move away. The last thing I'll say before we do, I'm sorry to everybody that this happened to when you were young.
Yeah.
You've got
And
solidarity from both of us.
Absolutely.
It's an awful situation to grow up with and to be exposed to.
And everybody let you down. You didn't do anything wrong. Society let you down. The adults in charge let you down. The people who did this let you down. Like, it was not in any way, shape or form anything that... And I will say, as much as it sucks, one thing for me that has helped a lot is knowing... and I always say this to people as well. If you kept your mouth shut to protect yourself, if you didn't tell anyone to protect yourself, if you kept silent to protect yourself and you blame yourself because of that, don't. Because I screamed from the rooftops and no one believed me. So whatever you did to protect yourself was the thing you had to do, and no one gets to blame you for whatever that choice was, because anyone who wants to tell you if you'd just done X, Y, Z, it wouldn't have happened. I did all those things and it still fucking happened. Like, there is nothing you could have done. You were let down. End of discussion.
100%.
Because that's the thing that pisses me off the most with this. Where everyone's like, why didn't, like, it's the first thing my mum said when my brother told her what happened to him. Why didn't you tell me at the time? Motherfucker, he was watching me tell you what was happening with me, and have you not listened to me? Why would he think as your son you would believe him when your daughter was telling you someone was doing it to her and you didn't believe her? Why would your son think you'd believe him?
Yeah, absolutely. And just before we wrap this up, I've seen Dom's message. Same for me. Absolutely the same for me, buddy. There's still stuff that I haven't opened up about to protect myself.
Peter.
Because I always live with the inherent fear that because I am the size that I am and a good fighter, people know that I'm a good fighter. I used to be in training to be a like international boxer. But because of who I am, people think that I should have been able to defend myself from it without understanding that I didn't fucking look like this when I was a child.
Well, not to mention the fact that even if you did, people really... People really do not understand this crime at all if they think that because of your size or your weight or your physical strength, you could prevent it happening to you. This is exactly why What's-His-Face came out during Me Too and told Terrence Howard, was it? Terry Crews. For exactly that same reason, just to be like, stop asking what they did. Like,
Yep. Fight, flight, freeze, absolutely.
And also, you have... in your brain, you have like a set... There are a whole lot of different prescribed steps that you take every day. There are a whole lot of pathways we're constantly strengthening because we're repeating that behaviour all of the fucking time. So when you find yourself thrown into a situation like that is so counter to everything, you find yourself repeating the scripts that you know. And what's the most similar situation you have? It's parents who love you and take care of you. It's family members who hug and care for you, and that the scripts that you have to follow when something like that happens that you're so unprepared for, and the scripts that aren't run, hide, like fight, they're the scripts that say you're safe. This kind of behavior is supposed to be safe, so why don't I feel safe? Like, there's a whole lot of psychological bullshit that happens in your brain when this is happening, and to sit there and blame any victim ever is just so short-sighted, so stupid, so... Oh, I just want to hit anyone who says anything like that. Like, it doesn't matter what you did. It doesn't matter what you did. It doesn't matter what the circumstances were. It doesn't matter. Any of the surrounding context does not matter. You should have been safe and you weren't. Yeah. It's not on you. Like, I don't care. I don't need any more details about any of it. Like...
Absolutely.
Excellent. Good way to end the discussion.
Last thing for anybody that needs to hear it. If you do want somebody to talk to, you just want somebody safe to chat to, you can feel free to reach out to either myself or, if Tamara consents to it,
Absolutely.
reach out to Tamara. Here is a friendly ear if you need to get something off your chest, or even
Absolutely.
just chat shit, But with that said and done, let's move on
Eventually.
from this topic, and we'll maybe get started.
Yes, we will get started. We will actually get started. It's only half an hour in.
Yeah,
Like that's...
we're
Oh, I
actually
still haven't
doing
done my
pretty well.
belong. Oh, you know what?
Yeah,
Before we
yeah.
start,
Coffee.
I'm going to
belong.
pee.
Go for it.
I'm
Yeah.
going to go pee too, because otherwise I'm going to get started and then have to go pee within 5 minutes of starting.
Yeah. Let's make the smart choice.
I'm a little bit excited though. I'm a little tiny bit excited, guys. I need you to all be really sassy in the comments because it's going to be boring as fuck otherwise.
Oh, we need to
I am
adjust the audio levels as well, apparently, tomorrow.
Is it my audio or Maddie's? Let me
Yeah.
know
Which
who's loud,
audio,
who's
Dom?
not.
Let us know what's going on.
Bearing in mind that my audio changes depending on where I'm sitting. Because
I'm
Maddie is
quieter.
quieter.
Okay.
Yeah, that's because
Let
I
me
leant
just-
forward and started yelling.
Let me just do some tests.
I'll go pee and then I'll adjust it.
All right. So my mic volume is all the way up. So maybe I'll just sit a little bit closer to the microphone and hope that works. On a less heavy note, you got stuck in a house with a Trump supporter on the weekend. That was fun. I mean, less heavy, I guess. I'm just going to make some adjustments to my microphone. So bear with me just a sec. Just going to bring it a little closer to my face. Hopefully that's going to make me a little bit more the right volume. Tamara has to adjust levels. Okay. Cool. Well, in that case, we will wait until Tamara's back. Peter, when you say less heavy note, like, were you at least able to have some fun fucking with them? Or was it just painfully annoying and ignorant crap? Sounds like Tamara's had her belong. Oh, you were being facetious. Yeah, I thought as much. I thought that was the case, but yes, Peter is definitely Australian, and Australian Trump supporters are super weird. Super weird. Because we know why you support Trump. It's just racism. Welcome back. Oh, no headphones on yet.
I'm sorry. I didn't realise I hadn't muted my mic, and so you could all hear me coughing that whole time.
Yeah, just
Sorry.
coughing your ring out there, bud. That was impressive. Like, that one really fucked you up. Imagine simping for another country's fash president.
I know!
Who does
My
that?
parents do. It's so embarrassing. I know.
Oh, the pain.
So embarrassing. I know. And people say, oh my god, like, you know, have you even met a Trump supporter? Maybe some of them have got some really good points. I'm like, I came out of one. There are no good points.
Yeah, no.
The good point was when I was still inside the uterus and I hadn't heard any of the Trump support rhetoric yet.
Yep.
That was the good point.
Yep. That was
Okay.
when it was okay.
Yeah.
Very yellow.
So, today, how's the sound actually? First, let's get the sound sorted before we do our little
Yeah.
intro.
Apparently, I am a bit quieter than you.
All right. Aren't you lucky? So, should I turn me down or Maddie up? Turn up, Maddie. Okay.
You just keep talking.
No, I was. Okay.
I'm going to wait because I'm seeing the host has unmuted your mic.
Yes.
So I assume some fuckery is happening right
Some
now.
fuckery.
Just hold on.
Some fuckery is happening. Yeah, there is some fuckery. Okay. How's that,
Word
guys?
describes a lot. All right.
Yeah.
Let me try talking again and see how the chat feels about this one.
How's that volume going now? Are we a little bit more even? I wasn't able to turn up, Maddie, unfortunately. I did just have to turn myself down.
Okay. So we'll both talk at the same time tomorrow, like
Exactly at the same
just-
time?
Yeah. I don't know. We'll just have a conversation with each other for a bit.
I could do
Then
the
Dom can
intro.
chat.
Should I do the intro?
Well, that involves you talking, and not me. So
You have to talk a little bit for the intro.
a little bit, yeah. At the end,
Just a little bit of talking. Still a bit less level. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, what if I do...
I've got my onboard microphone
There we go.
volume turned full.
Um,
All right. Well, let's get back to bantering about how the intro works, shall we?
oh, well, okay. So, I forgot last time we did the intro, so we
Yep.
did a little bit of a script before we recorded, and I
We
was
tried.
so, it's fine, I won't forget, and then I did the intro and I did forget. So,
And I told you
I'm gonna
that
try. But I was actually going to talk to you about something I thought of. It was a bit gimmicky. I don't know if it's funny or not, or if it's just funny in my head.
Okay. Well, let's poll chat while we're here.
Okay. So the idea was to be like, welcome to Two Girls, One Garbage Can, the podcast where we, and then like steal another podcast entry week after week, like just do a random different. So like, welcome to Two Girls, One Garbage Can, the podcast where we explore our noble goals as 21st century feminists and the insecurities and hypocrisies that undermine them. Like that's the intro for the guilty feminist.
Okay. Right.
And then like, I'm still a bit louder. Okay.
Is it like to the point, Dom, where it's noticeable if I actually talk rather than mumble?
And I'm going to try and sit a little bit further away from my mic, so it's not... Maybe I'll move my mic a little bit further back, so it's not as bad. Quiet?
Still quite noticeable.
Quiet.
I think that is.
Okay. So this is the frustrating thing, because when I'm listening to us... hang on, let me hear...
Yeah.
Okay.
It's weird.
Yeah, you are quiet.
Hmm.
You
Are
keep
listening
talking
to
for
it
me?
on stream? Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, no worries. Yeah, so it's weird with the levels of these StreamYard things in specific, because I assume we're both feeding into it and then you're recording the output to go on to your Twitch channel. Is that right? Or are you going through your OBS into StreamYard?
No, we're both going directly into StreamYard. So we're both streaming our audio.
Yeah, weird.
Sorry,
'Cause, I
hang on,
mean, you can
I'm
see-
getting double feedback now, so my brain's... Okay, muted the stream. My brain was going a bit fuzzy.
Fair.
I had to
Yep.
jump out of Streamlabs because it was crashing on me. I was having issues with Streamlabs. Trying to edit the podcast was really difficult with Streamlabs. Yeah, so
Okay.
today I'm doing it directly into StreamYard, but that is giving us...
Does this sound any different, chat? Like, am I louder now? Or have I gone quiet? No?
Hasn't
Okay.
changed, really.
Weird.
Is that the gain you're playing with?
Yeah, I was just trying to see if that made any difference.
I'll turn mine gain down a bit. There we go. Turn mine down a little bit further.
Alrighty.
How's that now? That's probably actually the thing that's going to make the biggest difference. If I just done
Yeah,
that from the
most
beginning, we
likely.
probably wouldn't have the problem.
Do I have a mic boost option in my Windows settings? I mean, I've got it on 200% mic volume in
mine's at 80.
Streamlabs itself.
Mine's an
Like-
80. What mic have you got, Maddie? Maybe we need to get you a Blue Yeti.
I've got a Rode mic. These mics are like
Yours are better.
studio audio mics.
Yeah, yours are the better version of mine. Yours is the
Very high
upgrade.
quality microphones.
Yeah.
Cost me about $400 for the mic.
I was going to say that's like, yeah, yours is definitely of the two of ours the better quality microphone. So we're not going to blame it on the mic. But maybe we should just get you a Blue Yeti. I'll get you the cheap, nasty, tinny one and it will do the job.
Yeah, all right. Well, I'll have a look in the Windows settings now to see if I can find out what's going on there. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to turn off stereo audio and come through on a mono track.
Oh, I'm coming through on a mono track. Maybe that's what's doing it.
Yeah. Well, I've just updated mine there, and
You
we'll
definitely
see.
sound louder
I sound louder?
to
How's
me.
that for you guys? Any difference to my volume there?
I'm noticing it.
You're noticing it?
It sounds better. Yeah, Tom says it sounds better too. Excellent. Thank you.
All right. Excellent. Cool. Well, that...
Next
That
time
solves the
I
issue.
we'll be back once I've got Streamlabs sorted out. Yeah, we'll just let you do the audio messing with us in the background.
You can be our
with the
audio
knobs.
engineer, Dom.
Knobs. Yeah,
Hi, Bisky.
that's. Hello. All right, so now I've got the intro for Guilty Feminist stuck in my head. Welcome to Two Girls, One Garbage Can, the podcast where we explore the garbage can state of Australian politics. No, that's not our intro. What's our intro? Fuck.
Oh, buddy. We've just
We've
kind of
fried my
ruined you for this
brain.
intro, bud.
I never had a problem before, and then we tried to
To script it.
mainstream it, to script
Yeah.
it, and now I can't.
My
do
bad.
it. Welcome to Two Girls, One Garbage Can, the podcast where we explore the trash can state of Australian politics through a historical lens. No, that's not. I'm missing
It's
part of
close.
it. I'm missing this, a bit that I'm missing. Welcome to Two Girls, One Garbage Can, the podcast where we. The garbage can that is the Australian political system through a historical lens. To try and make sense of the bullshit. That's basically it. Radio. Let's see if we can get this, okay?
All
Everyone's
right.
allowed to make fun of me because this is not even that difficult a podcast intro. Like, we need to... Welcome to Two Girls, One Garbage Can, the podcast where we explore the garbage can state of the Australian political system using a historical lens to try and make sense of the trash fire that we are dealing with. I am your host, Tamara.
And my name is Maddie. And Tamara's got something for us this week. Now, they have
I'm going to start with a
prefaced
lovely
this.
little tale.
Tamara
Yes,
has
we
prefaced
have.
this with that chat needs to be sassy this week because this subject matter may be a little dry. So we might need some help from chat
Just a
for
bit.
comedic purposes.
All right. So, our... I'm Bisky. What are you all talking about? Bisky, we are talking about the trash can state of the Australian political system using a historical lens to help us understand how we got here. Because how we got here is the enduring mystery for many of us.
Yep. We're talking politics of the past and how it impacts and influences today.
Yes.
So
and
it
also
can get
just to
quite
help people
in-depth.
understand how unmysterious it really all is.
Yep. A lot of
It's
the time,
just a big garbage can.
a lot of the time, the answer to everything is, and the white man craved more money and power. Thus, we wound up here. So,
My
like,
favourite
just
thing...
not to lampshade everything.
No. My favourite thing to start saying to people when they start saying we should be guilty for colonisation because we wouldn't have the internet and whatever, I've just been saying, oh, did you colonise before or after the Industrial Revolution? Because I'm pretty sure one of those things happened before the other, and
Yeah.
correlation not there, correlation not found.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
They didn't wait till after the Industrial Revolution to colonise. They can credit colonising us with discovering the internet.
The
Actually,
the subtitle of this podcast could literally be "Foreshadowing is a literary device."
yes. Oh my god. Okay, so for our intro, which I will show you later,
Yes.
we've got a little screen that pops up and says "Politics discussions done different," but I like that better. Foreshadowing is not just a literary device.
Oh no! Foreshadowing is a literary device.
foreshadowing
because we're
is a
looking at
literary
we're looking at the past,
Yeah.
and we're seeing the past replicate in the future. Like, we're just foreshadowing what's happening
We're
later.
foreshadowing, literally. We're
It's
just
a
pointing
very
out the
common thing.
foreshadowing that happened, the
Yeah.
cyclical nature of... I feel like if these curls were just a little bit tighter, I'd have a little bob going on. Very cute little bob. Anyway. Are we ready for today's edition of The Garbage Can?
Let's do it. I want to go dumpster diving today. Let's go.
Okay. The Petriana was a screw steamer powered by both steam and sail. It was owned by the Asiatic Petroleum Company and operating on behalf of the Shell Transport and Trading Company. The Petriana was bound for Melbourne, Victoria from Borneo. It was laden with 1,300 tonnes of bulk oil, as well as an unrecorded quantity of naphtha and benzene. Oh, hang on a sec.
So it was an IED.
Yeah, pretty much. So it left Balikpapan in the Dutch East Indies with 1,300 tonnes of petroleum for the Australian market, travelling to Melbourne via Sydney. She was also carrying naphtha and benzene and had a crew of 27, 16 Chinese and 11 Malay, while the 9 others on board were British. On the morning of the 28th of November 1903, Petriana was boarded by Henry Press, a pilot of 20 years' experience who was to guide the ship through the heads into Port Phillip Bay. Mm-hmm. So at this point, the captain of the ship... Sorry, I'm just flicking back and forth between two screens because, as usual, I didn't bother collating them into one page. So the captain of the ship handed off the steerage of the ship to the pilot who was going to bring it in to dock. Mm-hmm. The pilot boarded the vessel at 6 a.m. and proceeded toward the notorious rip at the entrance of Port Phillip Bay. The fog was thick and the shoreline was obscured, but the pilot hoped the fog would clear by the time the leading lights could be seen. Unfortunately, the fog did not clear, and the Petriana went aground on Portsea Back Beach at 7 a.m. Within moments, the engine room and stokehold were flooded, leaving the vessel without power. Mm-hmm. Attempts made to refloat the Petriana throughout the day using the steam tug James Patterson were unsuccessful. The following day, the salvage schooner Enterprise and the tug the Eagle were called to assist. It was hoped that the powerful pumps on the Enterprise could remove some of the water from the Petriana, allowing her to refloat. However, both pumps broke down, so this effort was abandoned. The next strategy was to lighten the vessel by releasing the cargo of 1,300 tonnes of oil into the sea. In a time before modern-day environmental concerns, though at the time there were many and there was outcry about this, the spill was described as a film of great beauty, radiating all the colours of the rainbow spread from the Sorrento Back Beach to Point Nepean. The foul-smelling oil contaminated the beaches for months afterwards. A final attempt was made on Monday, the 30th of November 1903 by James Patterson, but by this stage the ship was so badly damaged that it was formally abandoned. The master of the ship, Captain Kerr, and his wife, 6 officers, and the cabin boy had been evacuated after the first attempt to refloat the vessel.
Mm-hmm.
The 27 crew had also been evacuated, but the crew, who were of Chinese and Malay descent, sparked a national controversy. Victorian authorities tried to prevent the seamen from landing in line with the Immigration Restriction Act, the White Australia policy, which prohibited immigrants not of European descent from entering the Commonwealth.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Okay, I have to say it. The second you said the 27 crew of Chinese and Malay descent, I was like, this gonna be some White Australia policy shit in it. And sure enough, I am very rarely disappointed. Oh boy.
Once the
Ah, yes. Historical legalized racism. Let's go. What a topic.
Today, we are going to be talking about the White Australia policy. Yes.
Excellent. Excellent. If you didn't do it, I was going to.
As if I'd let you beat me to it. Fuck off. Once the Patriana was formally abandoned 2 days after the spill, the crew was sent to Hong Kong aboard a Japanese steamer. They had to wait for 2 days aboard life rafts as the Australian public argued about whether or not they should be allowed to come aboard Australian shores. The Australian Prime Minister at the time, Alfred Deakin, backed up the local authorities, and the debate raged in the press for months, with letters variously of protest, explanation or apology. Captain Kerr, who'd been the captain of the Patriana, wrote, "If this treatment of my crew is a fair specimen of your humanity, it is about equal to the worst barbarity of other nations. And if it is forced on you by your laws, I regret to say they are a disgrace to the British Empire." Imagine being
getting
so
schooled on
racist.
racism by the British.
Imagine
like,
being
you
so
guys are
racist the British are embarrassed by you.
Yeah, British person rocks up. I say, you are terribly racist, and that's
This
coming
is
from
far
me.
too racist for my taste.
I
And I'm British.
I'm so shocked I spilled my tea.
You should see what we did to that black princess we had, but this, oh, terrible.
By Jove.
The wreck of the Patriana still lies in shallow waters in pieces around 200 metres off the point of Nepean. The White Australia policy, while no longer forming a central piece of Australian immigration law, still makes up the foundation of our immigration law today, and we can still see it reflected throughout time in policies such as the Pacific Solution, children overboard scandals, and, of course, offshore detention processing, which has been declared a humanitarian crisis several times by the UN, to which our Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, not that one, the other one, one of the other ones, whichever one it was. Who's the one? The really, really
The one
religiously
before?
stupid one?
Scott Morrison?
Abbott. Tony Abbott.
Tony Abbott.
Tony
Oh, that
Abbott,
fuckwit.
when we were lectured to the UN about our inhumanitarian processing of asylum seekers, his response was to say that, like most Australians, he was just sick of being lectured to by the UN.
Holy shit.
So fun.
Just the fucking onion eating budgie smuggler. Yo.
An onion eating budgie smuggler. Like, yeah.
Who bites into an onion like an apple?
Yeah.
Christ.
On the evening of the wreck, the James Patterson took those rescued from the Patriana to Queenscliff. The ship's captain, William Kerr, and his wife were passed through quarantine and then given accommodation in town. However, the other officers and crew, who were of Chinese and Malay descent, were required to remain on the tug. Initially, it had been explained to them that they would be needed for the recovery attempts, though. This was simply some subterfuge given to stop them from kicking up too much of a fuss.
Yep.
Once the ship had been formally abandoned, immigration officials applied the Immigration Restriction Act of 1901, refusing permission for the Asian crew members to land and forcing the tug to anchor off Williamstown, where it remained until a Japanese mail steamer bound for Hong Kong decided to stop by and pick them up so they wouldn't be left there. Captain Kerr also said, "I've sailed in many seas the world over, but have never before seen or heard of a country where the shipwrecked mariner was not allowed to set his foot on dry land." So, you know, he obviously very, very upset by this. But this was probably the first real attempt of the White Australia policy to be tested. So in the 1800s, the majority of the white population of the Australian colonies shared attitudes towards people of different races that, by today's standard, we would call openly racist. Criticisms of non-white groups were based on the idea that they were less advanced than white peoples in all ways, but especially morally. In Australia, this idea... It's terrible.
I'm biting the fuck out of my tongue so you can get the words out.
I'm trying to get past it as quickly as I can because I'm just holy shit. In Australia, the idea was particularly focused on people of Asian descent, but it did apply to all non-whites, including Indigenous Australians, considered a dying race. Yeah. Ironically, Australia of the day saw itself as a utopia and a working man's paradise, a forward-thinking country that promoted equal rights and opportunities for desirable citizens. Of course.
Ah, yes. Equal rights for a certain group.
Equal rights for certain people, yes.
Yeah.
The nation aimed to attract a well-paid male, white and skilled labour force to uphold this image. So that meant that non-whites and even some working women were seen as a threat to this ideal. They were perceived as being inferior, and this meant that they were paid less. And it was believed that they would just steal employment opportunities, which is a rhetoric that we still hear repeated a lot.
They took our jobs.
The lazy immigrant come to steal our jobs.
Yeah, the lazy immigrant who's working in the job that I specifically don't want.
Yeah. That they couldn't get anyone else to do. They had to import people to do the job that I didn't want to do, and I'm now going to complain that it's not there for me to do it.
Oh, yes, the immigrant from overseas with 5 degrees has taken the job of you, Harry, the toothless wonder who didn't even pass high school.
Driving an Uber.
Yeah.
Driving an Uber because we won't let them work as a doctor.
Yeah, which they're more than qualified for.
Absolutely.
And probably better than most of ours.
But we're too racist to let them do it. Oh,
yeah.
Guys, if you can't afford to go and see a GP, just ask your next Uber driver. They'll probably be able to help.
I hate that that's probably more true than the joke makes it out to be. Like, I hate that. That has me feeling a certain way tomorrow.
I'm going to have to make a TikTok about that later.
Yeah. Yeah, probably. I think I'll get a second opinion from my DD driver.
DD driver. Look, yeah, I'll get a second
DD
opinion on
stands
this
for
time.
Dr. Driver.
Yeah. God. Oh, God, that's probably where they got the idea from.
Yeah, driving doctors. Like,
DD probably means doctor in another language. They're just another culture's literally laughing at us. Yeah, call a doctor and pay them to drive you to Macca's instead of getting health care.
Yep.
It's called capitalism.
Yeah.
So, Later on, I do want to go through some facts about immigration just because these lies still persist to this day, and it is ridiculous that we still believe some bullshit taught over 170 years ago when we know that it's false. Like, we got the facts to prove it's not true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, God. So, prior to 1901, the Australian colonies had seen a large growth in non-white migration, especially during the gold rushes in many many settlements across Australia from like on both the east and west coast. Reactions of white Australians to this trend were overwhelmingly negative, and because this was happening on both coasts, it was shared nationally. It was a national sentiment. The tension was further aggravated by the introduction of indentured Pacific Island labour to Australia. So
The slavery of Pacific Islanders, for
Yeah.
anybody who doesn't quite get that terminology.
anyone who wants to know, whenever you hear indentured labour, talking about brown people, it's when the white people want to pretend they weren't doing slavery.
Yeah. It's like, oh,
That's how we whitewash history.
we paid them technically.
Well, they
but,
were in debt,
They
and we
didn't
let
have
them
a
work their debt
choice
off.
but to work for us. Yeah.
Yeah. So they came from a tribe where they shared, and we gave them tobacco, and they gave us cloth. And we said, oh, thank you for the cloth, but the tobacco actually cost £500. Do you have £500? No, well, you have to come work for us now. And they went, but we have tobacco. We grow it ourselves. We gave you cloths because we know you have cloth, but we also have tobacco. We figured that was a fair trade. Like, we're giving useless shit to each other.
Yeah.
No. It wasn't done with tobacco necessarily, but just the point
No,
is
but that's a
that
good example.
yes, yeah. The indentured nature of the labour is often an agreement that today would not stand up in a court of law.
Yeah. Just a bit. It's like, oh, hey, so you know how you owe MasterCard like $4,000 for your credit card? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now you work for them, and instead
Yeah.
of paying you so that you can pay your rent, the work that you do pays off your credit card.
Pays
Isn't
off
that
your credit
fun?
card debt. Isn't that fun? And even not just that, but also like the idea of consent is that it has to be complete. So you can't say to, like, for example, the court case, and trigger warning for anyone who doesn't, another example of child abuse, unfortunately. The example that teaches us in law school that consent has to be, like, they have to fully understand what they're consenting to. What's it called? It's called, the term is something. Anyway, was a young girl who was she was a young woman, 20 years old, doing singing lessons. But this was in the late 1800s. And her singing instructor told her that by sucking his dick, it would help widen her oral passages so that she'd be able to sing better. So
Bro had some opinions about his length.
he did. So she performed that action voluntarily of her own free will, but she was unaware what she was actually consenting. She didn't consent to perform a sexual act on him. She consented to doing an oral exercise. And so that was what the court said, was that, that's the law that let us know consent has to be fully understood and also in order to be able to be given. So you would not be able to be consent to any of these indentured arrangements today because they were done in such a way that they were creating slaves, and they knew they were creating slaves. They created, again, the people who create the law do it in such a way that they can use it as a tool to oppress, not so that we can use it as a tool to win. Like, they were doing this at the time because there was outcry to the whole terra nullius bullshit, because they already knew at the time what they were doing was wrong. There had been a court case. Sorry, I know I'm rambling now.
No, please do.
I will talk to you about the court case with Sydney Stewart. City Stewart? Anyway, whatever his name was. Who is the first lawyer in this country to argue that the British shouldn't be here. And the High Court of Australia basically said, we can't find in your favour because that would mean agreeing that we're not allowed to be here. That was basically what their finding was.
Yep. Yeah. Everything
You're
you've said
right.
is correct, but if we agree with you on a legal precedent, that means we have to fuck off. Or pay
Literally.
reparations.
Their finding was literally the High Court found that they cannot recognise another nation on British soil. That was their finding.
Yep.
And we've now declared this British soil, and so it is. And it's like, but his whole case was that they were already here, and so you had no grounds to declare it British soil. And they went, yeah, but we can't recognise them because it now is British soil. So,
Yep.
oops.
About
That's literally what the court says.
God, my hair is being such a pain in the ass today. I'm
Is it
sorry
because
I
you're
keep
looking at how
fucking-
gorgeous my hair is and you're just feeling inferior?
Absolutely. That's 100% correct. I washed it last night, and now it's being
I'm
a
joking.
goddamn nightmare.
Your hair
And I
looks
hate it.
gorgeous. Don't.
Are you going to behave now? Just like...
I got
Stay
my
like
curls happening. I got my buffer curls.
No,
Anyways.
see, your hair looks like it's had effort put into it. Mine just looks freshly washed. That's all.
It looks lovely. It does look
It's so-
lovely.
It's so boofy.
I love the boof. I love the boof. It's the floof. How big is the floof? We need to
Oh.
get floof measurements. So, back on what we were saying. Sorry. Moved on to other topics. All right. So, the introduction of this indentured Pacific Island labour in the north of Australia had aggravated these tensions because many people felt that this was a cheap alternative just to paying proper wages to white employees. Capitalism going to do what capitalism does, but rather than blaming the people who were capturing and kidnapping these Pacific Islanders, they blamed the Pacific Islanders for stealing their
Yeah.
jobs that they
Oh,
didn't
yeah,
want.
it's their fault that they got brought here
Yeah.
under false pretenses.
Yeah. So these attitudes led to each colony establishing its own economic and migration policies, some going as far as excluding anyone of non-British descent. So,
Yep.
White Australia was actually a float that was presented at the Australian Henley Regatta on the Yarra in 1910. So White Australia has always been this very prominent idea with the colonists, definitely. So when Australia federated in 1901, Parliament felt it was necessary to create a national law for immigration. The Immigration Restriction Bill was one of the very first bills to be introduced to the new Parliament and proposed a twofold approach to restricting non-white population growth. The Act came into law on the 23rd of December 1901. So these guys had existed since March of 1901,
Yeah.
and by December
within
they've got a
6
law
months-
banning brown people.
Yeah. Within 6 months, it's like, if you don't meet at least Pantone shade this, if you are not... When you take your shirt off at one of our glorious beaches, if you do not reflect light like the beacons of fucking Gondor, you're not welcome to come to our house party. Like,
If you can't blend in with the sand, what are you even doing here?
holy fuck. Like, I am keenly aware that other Western countries crib Australia's immigration policy as a model for keeping brown people out.
Yeah.
But, like, how deep the rot goes that it was the second bill they introduced, and it took them 6 months to pass
Yep.
it from the date of federation. And that
Yep.
was one of the first things they thought about,
Yeah.
was how do we keep this place pasty as fuck?
But you think about today, if anyone tried to introduce a bill and have it passed in 6 months, you'd laugh in their face.
Right.
One thing we can all agree on, racism.
Yeah, evidently.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So the Act gave immigration officers the power to make any non-European migrant sit a 50-word dictation test. This was initially given in any European language, and after 1905, in any prescribed language. So this is one of the points about... I always talk about this because It's not the most interesting part, but to me it is the most interesting part about what they did. I know I've mentioned it many, many times, but as the language chosen for the dictation test was at the discretion of the immigration officer, it was easy to ensure failure for migrants deemed undesirable, either because of their country of origin, possible criminal record, medical history, or if considered morally unfit. So you could rock up and tell them that as a person of Asian descent, you knew both French and English.
Yep.
And they could decide to give you the test in Greek to ensure that you would fail.
But then a certain type of Greek person would rock up and they'd give the test in French.
Yes, exactly.
Because that Greek person was too brown.
Yeah. The thing that makes me laugh so much, though, about particularly the people of East Asian descent that they blocked is that you could rock up as a person of East Asian descent and know 3 languages fully and still fail this test.
Yep.
But you could be a white fella from the UK and barely be able to speak English and you'd pass.
Yeah. Yeah. It's wild.
We don't want smart people around here.
No.
What would we do with them?
No.
They get so bored.
Smart people would have ideas, and that might like change the country from the white utopia that we have. Why would we want that?
Yeah.
Or maybe they'll take our money.
Yeah. Yep. Wouldn't that be terrifying? God almighty. So extremely small numbers of non-white migrants were ever allowed to pass the test. It was administered 1,359 times prior to 1909. And during this time, only 52 people were allowed to enter Australia.
Wow.
After 1909, not a single migrant made to sit the test passed.
So what you're telling me is at the start of this policy, they were worse at racism, and then they
got better.
improved.
Yeah, they improved their racism after 1909, 100% strike rate.
Yep.
Yeah. And we wonder why we're such a fucking racist country today. It's like,
Oh, right.
well, we kept out all the clever non-racist people. So...
Yeah.
Now, prime ministers throughout time have constantly claimed that Australia is the world's most successful multicultural nation. While that sentiment seems to have bipartisan support today, for more than half a century after Federation... you okay? Hello?
I'm here.
Oh, you're here? Okay.
Yeah.
I heard the
I'm here.
sound. It sounded
I
like a
was
plane
just-
was taking off, and then it stopped. And
Yeah.
I was like, what's going on?
I muted the mic so you didn't have to
Oh,
listen to big plane noise while you were talking.
No, that's okay. I was just like, when it went away, I was like, no, something's happened.
Yeah, no. My camera's just gone really fuzzy and can't focus on me for some reason.
Yeah.
Hang on a sec.
So, I'm going to do another cone while you do that.
Yeah. Go for it.
I was going to say, there's a few little highlights about the White Australia policy as well that we're going to talk about. And as I said, guys, like, I am aware that this is not necessarily the most thrilling conversation in terms of, like, you know, there's a lot of facts and figures.
Yeah.
But I do feel like it's important because we still see so much of this being shouted out and touted today as being relevant,
Yeah.
you know, somehow.
Yep.
Oh, hey,
Hey,
Juzzy.
How you doing, bud?
I should jump on after this. Oh, no, I can't. That's okay. I was going to say I should jump on TikTok so everyone knows that I'm live because I usually do that and it usually helps.
Brings
but
a few people in.
I know, but I've got my script on my phone, so I'll have to do it. Whoop. After.
Speaking for myself, I'm doing okay, Joz. We are talking about the White Australia policy, so deeply fun topic today.
Yeah, dancing to the beat of that PhD. Pretty huge disgrace.
Not wrong, though.
No.
But yeah, aside from that, doing well. Thanks for asking. How's yourself? And I'm only making light of it because I love the media. If love the media, I don't know. You're doing okay. Good to hear. Oh, yep, with you now. All right, tomorrow, well, go ahead. Do the thing that you were planning on doing.
Oh, yes, that's the thing.
Getting yourself distracted.
Getting myself distracted from being distracted, too.
Yes. Yep. And while you're doing that, I'll take the chance to have a vape without muting.
Yeah, no need to mute, because we can just cut all this bit out.
Only while we're actually talking about the topic, this bit can get cut out.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, actually, and you know what? On StreamYard, because it records it as two separate audio tracks, you don't even need to mute.
Oh,
Because
nice.
StreamYard records as two separate audio tracks.
Oh, it records my track and your track separately.
Yeah, which is why you can't log out straight away. I need you to stay on.
Understood.
Yeah.
Now it makes sense.
Otherwise, I won't have your audio.
All right. Well, I promise I'll stick around.
Yeah, thank you. I do need
No
that.
worries.
I'm behind on the editing.
That's all good.
It's okay, because we are still going to be every Monday, because I'm ahead enough for that.
Okay.
But I do have to get ahead before I go to New Zealand.
Yeah, absolutely. So tomorrow, do your thing, and
Yep.
then Juzzy will answer your question immediately after that. Or potentially find out it's getting answered during the course of the discussion. Because we're only at, Federation at this point. We've just started. So we may very well get to it in the course of
Been talking for an hour
what
and
we're
we've
talking
just
about.
started.
Yeah. We do this.
We do. We
Everybody that
do.
comes to watch is used to it.
So, yes, in 1967, it was after my mother was born.
Mm-hmm.
She was recognised as a
Lily.
human being. So on her birth certificate, she was listed as fauna on her birth certificate. She had to get her birth certificate reprinted after 67.
Well, there you
Hey,
go.
well-
There's the answer to that, Juz.
She was listed as native on her certificate. But, yeah, that came under a special... Like, her birth certificate was classified under a special... She was born in New South Wales. Sorry.
Well, that answers your question. Tamara's mum, born before 67, was listed as native, which came under a different categorisation under the law.
She had a different birth certificate.
Yep.
She had a birth stub. That's what they called it, a birth stub. And it was like on the piece of paper where they registered them, it was like there were 3 to a page and they just filled out the details and tore it off and handed it to you. And that was it. That was the registration you got.
Mm-hmm.
My mum nearly cried when I ordered my kids' birth certificates and they came in this like beautiful... She was like,
Yep.
because, you know, it's just...
Yeah. The difference is stark
Yeah.
for literally one generation apart. Or 2 generations, I should say.
My mum didn't know her surname until I found her birth certificate. She was given like 4 different surnames because she was just given a
Jesus.
surname based on who was taking care of her. They just
Yeah,
decided what her
whose
surname
house she was currently in.
Yeah. Yep.
Fucking hell.
Means no one can steal my passport though, not even me. I can't even. Because you know your mum's maiden name is the secret question.
Yeah.
I'm always
Yeah.
trying to remember which name I used for
like,
her
I don't
maiden
know.
name. I don't know.
Do
Okay.
you just like quad barrel that bastard and hyphenate all of them?
No, there's not enough space. You kind of just have to pick one and then just Russian roulette. You're going to remember which one you picked.
Does absolutely understand what you mean there. Trying to simplify legal
Yeah.
stuff is a nightmare.
Some have claimed men had rights before then. So, ABC debunked the fauna claim and people are using that as law. Okay. So, yeah, privacy laws are a really, really big one. And there's a lot of, because there's the de jure and de facto when you're talking about law. The law in fact and the law as it's written. So people weren't running around calling my mum fauna when she was born, but she wasn't like, when my mum was pregnant with me, she was supposed to give birth at a different hospital because she was Indigenous. Like there's the law as it's written on paper and then the law as it is in reality. Like people weren't running around calling my mum an animal, but they also weren't allowing her to go to the white kids' school. like it's, and my mum was 5 before she saw rain, and like she was taken away and removed from her family at the age of 4. Like she you know what I mean? Like it's you. I don't even know. Like, how do you explain the experience of what it's like growing up Indigenous in this country when, like, you're constantly aware that you're a second class citizen and you've got this, like, we live so separately from the state most of the time. It's just this, you live in this really bizarre middle ground of constantly being aware of yourself in opposition to the state, living under the state, constantly trying to avoid the state. Like, you're never not aware of the state, though. Like,
Yeah.
it's impossible to explain it to people. Every single time anyone knocks at the door, my kids hide because it's going to be someone from the state. Like, it's really, it's, you can call it what you want and you can write down what you want and you can say what you want in Parliament, but the lived experience of a kid going to school, understanding that they are a second-class citizen because of where they were born and when they were born is just, it's a reality you can't really explain.
And it's entirely different to the reality that I grew up with, for instance, of being a foreign brown kid.
Yes. You would understand that.
I experienced racism and, othering and things like that growing up. But the level, the type, the direction of it was vastly different to the racism and the othering that I saw my Indigenous classmates receive at the hands of the exact same people.
Yeah.
So it's, even though I have lived experience with dealing with racism all of my life, I cannot perceive from an Indigenous standpoint what their experience with it is like.
But you can conceptualize that idea of being in a group but apart from the group and constantly aware of that friction. And that's what I think a lot of white people just do not get, and they don't try to get it. That's the really difficult thing. They don't try and understand what it's like to live in a society that you're constantly at friction with just because of who you are. Like, inherently because of your identity.
Yeah.
And that's why I think so many communities of colour, we all come together very easily because it's like, you get it. You got the same scratch marks.
Like,
hey!
You might not have exactly the same experience as me, but we both understand what it's like to be in community and then
Yeah.
finding out that you're on the other side of the fence,
Yeah.
just listening
Yeah.
to the party. Yeah.
And people constantly say to you, you're such a homebody. Like when I was younger as well, people are like, oh, you're always with your family. You're always hanging out with your family. And we get that rap in Indigenous communities a lot, and I think it's very, very common with Middle Eastern communities as well. The, 3 generations living in one house. Everyone's always goes on about, oh, you never move out of home in our communities,
Yep.
30-year-old men still living with their mums and grandma is sort of the trope you hear from both communities. But that is for a reason, and it's because most of the time we're stuck living in societies where we're at friction in society all the time. We're in opposition to society all the time, unless we're with our community. And for a lot of us, because we're also immigrants, or we've been divided and separated because of colonization, we've been split away from where we should have been. We've been removed from family, like my mum has been, moved to other states. The only place you really do have that community is with your family, with your immediate family. And it grows and expands, obviously, as you, find the other immigrants and the other people who've also been displaced.
Yep.
But that's why we get that rap, is because all of the places out there have been created with them in mind, and we are not them. So we create our places in here, like in our homes and in our spaces, which they're now trying to remove from us by making us all wandering renters, doomed to wander for all eternity.
Perpetual itinerants.
Yeah. Yeah. I was at a home before I mean it. Yeah.
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 Same dog.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I don't want my kids to ever leave home. Not because I'm attached to them. My whole plan is to have a big property and have a house on the other end of it, far away from them.
Yep.
But I don't ever want them to have to stress about how they're going to make ends meet. And I just don't know how else to do that for them.
Yeah. Yep. Lily, I was
Lily!
1 year after yours.
Far out. Yeah, family discard is not spoken about it often enough. Yep. Yeah, being in a cult and having that constantly, that threat hanging over you. I got cut off from my family, I think the first time they decided to... Well, I know the first time my sister got cut off and we weren't allowed to speak to her. She was 14, I think. That was the first time. Because cult things, just...
As they do.
As they do. Just... Anyway. Fun times. Yeah. Should we... keep moving on about this?
Yeah, let's continue.
Let's continue. Shall we continue? Shall we continue?
Shall. Indeed.
So in 1925, Prime Minister Stanley Bruce reassured a worried public that Australia's racial makeup was still a strong 98% British, and that this was unlikely to change. The means of mainstreaming this racial and cultural homogeneity is loosely termed today the White Australia policy. So that was going to be my mic drop moment, but it's okay.
Yeah, sorry. Stole that one from you.
Hey, how could you not? There were too many hints. There were way too many hints.
Yep.
So... Now, the White Australia policy cannot be singled down to a single government directive, but certainly a series of them. But it definitely started with the Immigration Restriction Act, which was passed in 1901, as we discussed earlier. There was also Pacific Island Labourers Act and Post and Telegraph Act, which formed the initial legislative foundation. So... The Immigration Restriction Act in particular never mentions the words white or race, but the parliamentary debates and its application make it clear that it was a tool of racial exclusion. One of the things that we want to remind people whenever we are talking about the law is that judges won't just look at the word of law when they're trying to interpret it. They will also look at things like the second reading speech, which is what is the parliamentarian says when they're delivering the bill to Parliament for the second time, when they know it's already gone through both houses and it's now going through a second time to basically just get the final approval. That second reading speech forms a part of the judge's understanding and interpretation of the document. So a document doesn't have to say anything in it necessarily, but if during the second reading speech someone got up and said the purpose of this document was to ensure that those of non-white descent are not freely able to enter this country, then any bureaucrat, magistrate interpreting that document would take that into account and know that that was the purpose of the document.
Yep.
Bureaucrats also have a lot of power in our society that we all often miss. For example, if bureaucrats had decided that they thought that this was a racist act and they didn't want to put people through it, they had the option not to actually make people sit this test. This wasn't a test that everyone who came here had to sit. This was only given to certain individuals. So it was up to the bureaucrats who were working on a daily basis to ensure that this racist legislation was actually able to work in any sense. So whenever we're talking about law, legal changes, legislative bodies, it's important to remember that there are many moving parts that have to work together in order to see racism work to such a fantastic degree.
Yep. There's a lot of effort got to be put in to have racism function.
Yes, exactly. A lot of effort. But that also means that with very little effort, you can dismantle it, because simply by being a bureaucrat who refused to administer the test to people, or who only administered it to people who spoke English well, then you could ensure that, you were helping to undermine that system.
Yep.
So there are ways, it just shows that there are ways that we can undermine these systems, like little ways that we are able to undermine them. And there obviously there are, and there was a strong East Asian community that did spring up in Victoria at the time. Melbourne actually famously has a very strong Chinese community. So there were certainly those who were operating within these systems who were allowing immigrants to come through still from these places.
Yep.
So, it just goes to show that while the majority were racist...
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily society as a whole that were doing these things, but in saying that, definitely had a hand in the continuation of the racist thinking.
Absolutely. And the fact that
it can't perpetuate if all of society turns around and goes, hang on a second, that's not fucking right.
Exactly. And the fact that 98% of the population was British by 1925 shows how many went along with it in order for that to be the case.
Yep.
Because there was a strong multicultural community here before 1901 that they also had to kill, basically, with these policies. Mm-hmm. So one of the most famous examples of that, remember we were talking about the language test?
Yes.
Yep, this was I got distracted from this bit before, but the most famous example was Jewish communist Agon Kitch, who was fluent in several European languages and was arrested after failing to recite the Lord's Prayer in Scottish Gaelic.
Wow.
Which at the time they were banned from speaking in Scotland.
Yeah, you can tell they're stacking the deck when the only thing they have to rely on is fucking Gaelic. Like, Scots weren't even allowed to speak it.
Scots weren't allowed to speak it.
The English were oppressing them so hard that the Scots weren't allowed to speak their own language. And that's what we chose as the, oh yeah, you done fucked up. You can't come into Australia because you can't speak Gaelic. And
this was literally like the British colony telling him he had to speak Scottish Gaelic while banning the Scots from speaking it at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. God, this country's a fucking nightmare.
Like a fucking nightmare, Lily. Yes, what a reason to be arrested. God almighty. God almighty. So, the test actually wasn't dumped until 1958.
Yep. Yep. Only 6 years before my mum was born.
Yeah. As a direct result of the test and how notoriously impossible it was to pass, non-whites largely avoided coming to Australia, and overseas shipping companies did not issue tickets to people likely to fail the test. The
Look,
policy...
I need to clarify for chat. I don't find any of this funny. It's just if I don't laugh, I am going to cry.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like being recorded crying. No. So I'm going
Crying on the
to
internet's
laugh
never a good
instead.
idea.
All right? So just for clarity, this is not funny to me.
No, it's not. God, it's not.
This is an
It's
emotional
not.
regulation response, that's all.
Yeah. So we're going to get into why the policy changed and why it is so stupid that we continue with this insane rhetoric down to this day, this racist rhetoric down to this day in just a bit.
Yep.
Just after this last little sentence. So as a direct result, non-whites avoided coming and overseas companies did not issue tickets to people who would be likely to fail the test. The White Australia policy received bipartisan support but was gradually dismantled by both sides. Conservative governments introduced the Migration Act in 1958 and in significant modification in 1966. Mm-hmm. So this was sort of the end of that period of the White Australia policy. But in saying that, the Migration Act that was then amended in 1968. Where are we? Hang on, I've got the whole thing up in front of me right now. Where is it? Oh God, I've lost it. No, I'm okay. That was a side quest we were going to go on that I've lost. We're going to skip it and pretend it didn't happen because I lost it. We're not going to do that. So, oh, fuck you, ads. Okay, there's an add-on. So we're going to take a break.
Okay,
I'm going to go make another coffee.
Yes.
And then we're going to do an ad read when we get back.
Okay.
We're
going to be doing an ad read, friends.
We're going to be doing a little ad read. We're just going to do a little...
for Two Girls, One Garbage Can.
First.
Yeah. You guys get to experience history.
Yeah.
Why did I say it like that?
I don't know. It was very strange. I love it, but it was... Here we go.
I'm being deeply weird today. I'm sorry.
I love it. Media slot. I'm going to add a media slot in between us, and we're going to... Or above us, or between us. Either way, we're both going to be looking at it being like, oh my God, what is it? She pretty. Looking at their stuff.
I mean, that's how I start most streams with you. Like,
yeah. Stop it.
I am not sorry. I will not apologize.
Stop it.
No.
JK. No.
I refuse.
Here we go. It's not going to look like this the whole time, guys. Don't freak out. We're going to look weird for a little bit, but it's just for the ad. Oh, Lordy. I'm going to make you bigger. I mean, you're big enough, but...
Thanks.
Sorry, I meant to send you a voicemail also saying, hey, if the flirting's too much. Why am
That's
I just
exactly
getting
the kind of
smaller?
compliment that I want to hear. I mean, you're big enough. It gives me life.
Tell me again. See, the problem is everyone needs to understand.
I wasn't recording. Say it again.
An ad after an ad. Why not? Exactly.
Yeah.
Why not? An ad after an ad.
It's a special one, though.
It's a special one because we like these people. Here we go.
Yeah.
Jeppy. Here we go. No. Why am I on the wrong thing?
Juzzy. Nah, still exactly the same situation for me, bud. Yet on the responses. Tragically.
Yeah, I think oh, cancel that. That's not what I want.
Who are we cancelling? You've been going a month longer than I have, Jazzy. I started on the 1st of July after the federal government shut my industry down. And I think I've done maybe 250. Oh, you've got a part-time job starting Wednesday. Well, at least that's something, bud.
Yay!
That's something.
Okay, where is it? Okay, here we go.
So I was working in the vaping industry, Juz. I was running a vape store, and the Fed decided that they were making vaping illegal unless it was made by Philip Morris and sold in pharmacies to their mates who have ex-Labor ministers on their board.
Yeah.
So, you know, not controversial
Just
at all.
capitalism things.
Yeah.
Just capitalism things. Oh my gosh.
Anyways.
Oh my gosh.
gosh.
Maddie, girl, have you seen these keffirs?
Which ones?
These ones here on the screen in between the two of us.
Oh, yes. Okay. Oh,
They're
quite nice.
available at jeppyinc.com, a company started by 6 American grad students hailing from Palestine, Mexico, India, and somewhere else I forgot. Sorry. Wow. And a percentage of all of their proceeds go to the Zakat Foundation, a Muslim-run organisation that helps support.
Oh, darling, would you like me to jump in and assist?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay,
Wow.
no worries.
Have you heard of them?
Yeah, look, they look fantastic. They're run. The site is run by a group of immigrant people who have come in and is looking to make some positive change. So parts of the proceeds from what they sell go through to a Muslim-run charity. The
Zakat Foundation.
The Zakat Foundation, yeah. So it's a good place to go, and because it is run by people who have connections to oppressed groups, it's at least a reliable source, rather than relying on, as someone in chat just pointed out, a option that may or may not be run by somebody who doesn't have the best intentions of Palestinian people in mind, and is instead doing the usual thing of stealing everything Palestinian and claiming it as their own.
Yes. So the Zakat Foundation in particular, I'm going to put the link here, but they are the same way that there are a lot of Christian-run organisations. The Zakat Foundation are a Muslim-run organisation. So they are a religious charity. This is the link to the Australian arm of the organisation. The American arm of the organisation is currently trying to help organise visas for people who've left Palestine but have been unable to land somewhere safely. So they're currently trying to help organise visas and things over there, which is one of the reasons why this organisation, JEPI Inc., are supporting them, and why I agreed to give them a little shout out. So if you are interested in buying a keffiyeh to support Palestine, then buy it from an organisation who will also be donating proceeds toward the cause in Gaza at the moment of helping people escape from what's happening there.
Absolutely.
Yay.
It's always good to support people doing good work.
Yes.
This is how we build community. This is how we make sure that
Absolutely.
disadvantaged and marginalised groups have the support they need.
Yes, and
And it's not just keffiyehs either.
No, it's not just
the JEPI
keffiyehs
Inc. does.
that they do. No, look at their catalogue. They sell pendants and hoodies. Let's look at all their hoodies.
Yeah.
Wow, they've got watermelon hoodies. Fuck yeah, not a watermelon hoodie.
Yep. This is not a watermelon. Yep.
This is not a watermelon.
which I love because, like, they're right. It's not a watermelon. Sure,
It's
it
not
looks
a
like
watermelon.
it, but we all know
Yeah.
exactly what that means now.
I want that hoodie.
We've all
Oh
been
my
on the
goodness.
internet for long enough to know what that means.
Absolutely. I think I'm going to have to get that hoodie and you're going to see me
Yeah, I
wearing
think
that
so.
on stream.
It looks
Definitely.
dope.
Absolutely.
That looks dope.
There's
Only
there's
$47. Like,
so
I
much.
assume that's American, but still.
It is. It's American pricing. The back image, yes, this is not a watermelon. I flippin' love it. So, they had actually reached out to me about doing a collaboration, and in the email as well, they even said to me, you know, we think that you're the kind of person that we want to work with. Like, they're not just picking anyone to work with, obviously, but they also specifically said in there that they were willing to pay me a fee, and so I immediately went, okay, they're not. They're not full of shit. They're not pulling my leg.
Yeah.
I didn't even respond to the email. I just did this.
Yeah. Yeah. We haven't necessarily done the ad
We,
read
I
that
should
they
say,
would like us to do.
No.
We've made our own ad read.
No, that's AUD. They're on sale.
Oh, damn. Hang on. That's Australian dollars.
That's Australian dollars.
Oh, that's dope.
Oh my gosh.
I cannot buy any of the hoodies. I am too fat for the hoodies.
You're on the site too.
Yes,
Excellent.
I'm looking at it now.
So usually when you get a message like this, they'll say things like in the message, they write it to you and they'll say, like, we'll give you a link and your subscribers will go there and like, we'll give you 5% of all sales or whatever.
Yeah.
Or like, usually it's about 10 to 15% of all sales from a link. And you respond and say to them, yeah, okay, give me a link. And if I end up liking the product, I'll do it or whatever. And it doesn't matter. Like the link can die. Like it's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
It's just kind of the first step in figuring out if you're even going to work with them. And like I said, the fact that these guys are even trying to do that,
Yeah.
when they're also trying to give the proceeds to, you know, this organisation to help people, I'm just like, God Almighty, they're doing all of it. So
Yeah, they're doing the most. Like,
they're doing the most.
and good on them. And good on them.
they go up to
like,
3x.
It's important. Yeah. Still not enough for me, Lily. I am
This is not a
big
camera
human
trick.
being.
This is
Yeah,
not
no.
a camera. These proportions are about right
Yeah.
between me and Maddie.
Yep. I am a big human being.
I keep trying to change it by moving closer, and I'm like, but that's not realistic, though, is it?
It doesn't feel comfortable at that point, let's be honest.
No.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to go and get a coffee quickly, and then we're going to come back from ads and finish.
No worries. Well, while you're getting a coffee, I am going to have a little bit of a chat with Since we are currently on the topic of Palestine, I am going to discuss something that has recently happened.
Oh, okay. I will be back very shortly.
No worries, mate. Before I do that, because I assume Tamara will want to hear some of this, I'm just going to respond with Lily. I'm 6'4", and I am very broad across the shoulders and have a bit of a gut because my knees, hips, and ankles are busted, and it is real hard to do exercise when your lower half of your body is screwed. So yeah, unfortunately, think rugby player gone heavily to seed. That would describe my body. Breakdancing is my calling. No. It'll be breakdancing, all right, but it'll be me breaking. What a description. Yeah. It'd be literal. Yeah, exactly, Dom. Yep. I would break. Yeah. I've seen some of the stuff that actual breakdancers do. Is the void in live on TikTok at the moment? I don't know. I'm not sure. Actually, I don't think that she is. Would be words on stream. No. No. I thought so. Thanks for confirming that. Okay. So I'm just going to bring something up because there is something that I want to talk about. Sorry, bear with me a second, guys. I'm just trying to find what I had earlier. I accidentally closed all of the tabs in my phone's browser. Okay. So did a chest press against the wall last night just to stretch, and I think my chest is still creaking from the cracking of cartilage. Yep. Gives you time to complete your cart. That is fine. Okay. So because we were discussing Palestine and the charity that is trying to get visas for Palestinians to escape the genocidal oppression that's being forced upon them. I wanted to take a brief moment to discuss an attack that Israel launched against Gaza just yesterday. Day before yesterday, I should say. That killed more than 100 Palestinian people, men, women, and children, and dozens more wounded in a strike on a school that was sheltering displaced people. The attack, of the people who were killed, apparently they could not find one body that was intact. These people were lining up for the call to prayer. So this strike was intentionally targeted at a group of displaced refugees, internally displaced refugees, who were preparing for the morning call to prayer. At a time of peace, at a time of religious peace for these people, Israel visited upon them horror. And this was supposed to be in an area that was a safe zone. And Israel is constantly moving the goalposts in that they'll declare an area safe and then they'll declare it unsafe and tell people to move somewhere else. And at the moment, they're trying to get people to move back into a suburb that is filled with occupying Israeli tanks. So they're trying to move people into a place where it will be much easier to set up killing fields on civilians. And the estimated size of the bomb that was used was a 2,000-pound bomb. It's unreal how this keeps happening. Honestly, I wish I had more words for this. I wish I had better words to describe my thoughts and feelings on the situation, but words fail me. I can't come up with anything more than has already been said by every single person that looks at this and sees a massacre of innocent civilians and feels horrified by it. And as we rapidly approach a full year of these attacks by Israel on the Palestinian civilian population. And I need to make it clear, it is the civilian population that are being targeted. They are not targeting Hamas. They never were. They have an AI that tells them when somebody that is of interest to them has re-entered their family home, so that they can bomb not only the person of interest, but the rest of their family as well. So the idea that they're precision striking enemy combatants is horseshit. And Juzzy and Lily, you're absolutely correct. They're trying to make the land so uninhabitable, so destroyed, so devoid of life that they can claim it as their own. And the West is laying down the paving stones for them to roll their tanks over. The West is loading the munitions. And it horrifies me that a portion of the taxes that I paid over the last year has gone to continuing to arm Israel in their continuance of this genocide. Hey Ed, welcome in. Bit of a heavy topic at the moment, where I'm discussing the Palestinian genocide and the recent attack that killed 100 people, men, women and children who were preparing for morning prayers. We're just on break from what we normally do, which is the Two Girls, One Garbage Can podcast, where we're discussing the White Australia policy. But yeah, your specialty subject, well, you are absolutely welcome to chime in with any thoughts that you have. It's it's been a horrifying couple of days, couple of months, almost a year. Like, as I said earlier, we're approaching a full year of this shit. And it just keeps going. And nothing is changing. And Kamala Harris is the nominated candidate for the Democrats. And she's just going to keep it going as well. Ed, he said, I'm the only Jewish political party leader in Australia and I'm anti-Zionist. Well, fuck yeah, bud. Fuck yeah, mate. Like, good shit. Good shit. Because we need more voices like yours who can show and like, it should be obvious to anybody with half a brain that Judaism and Zionism are not intrinsically linked, but the amount of work that places like APAC have done to link Zionism and Judaism as some inexorable, conflated object has made it so difficult. So voices like yours are so important, Ed. They really are.
Absolutely. And yeah, hi, Ed. I'm not going to lie. I just got a little bit distracted because someone has made a stitch to my video. A Zionist has made a stitch to my video. And I got a little bit distracted because, like, they were basically calling me moral bankrupt. That, you know, their video is basically saying, how stupid do you have to be? How morally bankrupt do you have to be more upset about the rescuers going in disguised as humanitarian aid than you do over hostages being taken in the first place? And I'm like, first of all, there's a reason it was banned at the Geneva Conventions, you dumb fuck. Sorry, poor choice of words. You stupid fuck. Like, there's a reason that this is very worrying behavior. Anyway, because again, they don't value brown people's lives. So.
Yeah, correct.
Fucking hell.
One thing I've noticed, Tamara, I don't know if you're getting it with your Twitch as well, is that when I stream this to Twitch through StreamYard, the quality is really compressed. It looks like I'm filming on a potato.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool.
It does. Unfortunately, guys, I'm so sorry.
It's all good.
Sorry.
It's all good.
I will be streaming directly next time. We will be streaming directly through, I don't know, what program are we going to use going forward? I need Streamlabs.
I'll do a bit of research. Have you got Streamlabs OBS? Like Slobs, SLOBS?
Slobs.
Dom just spamming OBS.
I've got OBS. I've just, you mean just OBS? Plain old OBS?
SLOBS. Not Streamlabs, apparently.
Yeah, no, Streamlabs has fucked me off one too many times. I'm done with Streamlabs.
Righto. Well, I'll have a
potato.
Oh my god, the chat. Everybody's just jumped on the spam bandwagon. I love it. Let's go.
Honest to God, penis. Just straight up, OBS is the best choice. You won't find a better one. Okay, well, OBS is what I was using. The only reason I stopped using OBS was because I couldn't figure out how to stream to two places with OBS. I was trying to stream to multiple places and I just...
Juzzy, stop saying penis.
I can teach you
Jesus
that. Okay.
Christ. Not again.
I love you, Dom.
We're not playing
what would I do without
words
you?
on stream. Okay, yep. I should have expected that.
Okay, vagina. We will be playing words on stream shortly. Don't worry.
Yeah, later. Later. That's for later.
Yeah, that's for later. That's for laters. Yeah. So,
my word.
So we got up to the point where the Wait Australia policy had been basically dismantled and was instead replaced by the Migration Act of 1958. And then that had a significant modification, 66. Well, this went through another round of changes, obviously. So, driven by the populate or perish doctrine, non-Europeans were allowed to come to Australia based on skills and suitability rather than race. Eventually, they were offered the same pathways to citizenship as Europeans. It was the It was the Whitlam government that decided that they symbolically buried the past remnants of the White Australia policy in 73 with the Racial Discrimination Act. Now, this was then seen to be tested when there was a large number of Vietnamese refugees that came in under the Fraser government. This was seen as sort of a litmus test as to whether the White Australian policy was really gone in fact, right, like, in actuality.
Yeah.
Because while the White Australia policy was made up of sort of these three legal doctrines, there was also this widespread belief that existed within the Australian culture. So some of the bulletins that you could read during the era would often say things like, Australia is for the white man. Get coloured men out and white men in. There was a game called the White Australia game. There was a White Australia puzzle. There were White Australian products, songs, pins, badges, soaps, and even a White Australia brand of sliced pineapples in syrup.
Okay.
Whites are so desperate for culture.
Yep. White apples.
Okay. Yeah. So there are still now the majority of the conversation has been since this time that the White Australia policy is in fact dead. However, since the 70s, there have certainly been a number of occasions in our history that we can point to that suggest that this is not the case. Hey, I just wait for my door to close before I keep going.
Yeah.
So desperate coming from a white. Yeah, thanks.
Oh, yeah.
Like White Australia pineapples and syrup? Are you serious?
Yeah, right? Like... Oh, that is so fucking funny. Like, it would be funny if it wasn't desperately tragic.
Yeah, exactly. Fucking exactly. So, there's a couple of moments in Australian political history that sort of stand out and show that the White Australia ideology is certainly not dead and buried.
Yep.
So I'm going to mute myself until the noises are no longer noisy.
Yeah, that's okay.
Thanks.
Ed saying, I bet they would have been bland as fuck.
Yeah.
I hope I pronounced that the way it was in your head when you typed it, Ed. I'm pretty sure I did.
What makes me laugh is it's just like...
Perfection. Yep, good.
It's the most... It's the least white fruit of all of the fruits.
Yes. Right? Like you chose specifically pineapple. That is
but then
grown...
you had to serve it in the most bland way. Like,
Yeah, right.
This is white pineapple.
Yeah, the only thing whiter could have been making a pineapple upside down cake and calling it a White Australia pineapple upside down cake. That's the only way you make that whiter.
Yep, we appropriate another country's fruit and then serve it in the most syrupy, boring way possible. Didn't try and fry it up, spice it up, nothing. It just went, no,
Yeah.
This is...
Yeah. Yep. Here's just some cut pineapple in some sugar water. Have fun.
We can't put pineapple on pizza because it's spicing it up. Yeah. God almighty.
Oh,
Okay.
why do people suck so bad?
So,
Pineapple and tahini. Oh, God.
You're on fire today. You need to cool off. Oh, don't
Watermelon and
even.
tahini as well. So
So good.
good. So good.
Oh, a Darko's El Paso.
Tacos al pastor. Good shit. Good shit.
So, yeah.
Yes, agreed, Lily. 100%.
What's that?
Watermelon,
Oh,
cucumber,
yeah.
mango, pineapples.
Make it up into a salsa, put some chili in there. Oh, over some fried fish.
Yep. Yep. We are speaking Maddie language right now.
Oh, with tagine. Yes, okay. All right, so we're going to get racist again for a sec. You ready?
Phrasing. Jesus Christ. We are all right. Well, it's been lovely having a very brief career on Twitch. I'll see you on the other side of the cancelled wall. It's been fun. Love yous.
I'm seriously going to snip that out of context and put it up on TikTok later.
It's time for us to get racist again. Tamara,
It's time for us to get racist. You ready?
My eyes widening in horror.
So while the White Australia policy might in fact be dead, the White Australia ideology has certainly survived. In 1996, Pauline Hanson became, an actual politician.
Apparently, so they say. It's alleged.
She was elected. Like,
It's
how did
alleged.
she... It's alleged. Voter fraud.
Yeah. Allegedly, Pauline Hanson is a human being. I have yet to see any proof, but allegedly.
We found out how many of our neighbours were racist when they were in the privacy of the voting booth.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The void soon to be streamed on Kick. No, Josie,
She stole the election.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, absolutely.
Election truthers. How does Pauline Hanson keep getting voted in? Something is rigged.
Something's definitely rigged. Yeah.
God. Oh, please, nobody clip this stream.
Please.
I'm gonna
So,
cry.
hang on a sec. I've got to go back to. This is gonna get.
Josie, stop it.
What's Juzzy saying?
He just did the exclamation mark clip.
So, it was in November 1903. Okay, let's remember that the Petriana ran aground off the shore of Australia, and the 27 crewmen on board who were denied landfall in Australia. They had to
Yep.
stay on the tugboat for 2 days until a Japanese freighter came and picked them up.
Oh my God.
God almighty, how fucking
Fucking
embarrassing!
this country. I swear
embarrassing
to
is
fucking
that?
God.
Okay, but it gets worse because everyone's like, yeah, but the
Because of course it does. Of course it gets worse.
because oh yeah, of course it does. So I'm gonna wait because the noises are gonna get very disruptive for my editing later if I
Yep,
don't.
yep. Good idea.
It's really annoying. Because if you were the one telling the story, I could just mute myself and sit here and listen to you.
Next week. Promise.
Next week. Next week. What do you know? Ooh, we got a little preview. What are we going to talk about next week?
You've actually mentioned it already in this stream.
Oh no, damn it. Don't tell me I'm about to go into more detail on it. I'm not about to go into more detail on it, am
I don't think so.
No? Okay, cool.
I don't think you are. You mentioned it very, very briefly
Oh, and did
as
you
like
freak
an
out
aside.
and go, and then I didn't,
Yep.
and you went, oh, okay.
No. I a very neutral face.
Very neutral. I'm going to end the editing. I'm going to figure out what it was.
See if you can.
Watching the edit, yeah. Can I join from Denmark? Hi,
Hello,
Jeff.
Wilbert from Denmark. Of course
We
can.
are doing a live stream of our podcast, so you can't join on the StreamYard, but you are more than welcome to sit in the chat and chat with us. We're very happy
Yeah.
to have you in the chat today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I'm being bought food. That's what the noise was. Thanks.
Love that for you.
I love this for me too. Yeah.
Yeah, no. Unfortunately, today, Jeff, it is a recording of a podcast, so
The
even though it
podcast
seems
today,
discordant, it's going to get cut together perfectly, so it's all good.
it does seem discordant, but that is how we roll. And this is why we tell people that they should join us live.
Yeah,
Because
they get the full experience.
you get the full experience. Or join the Ko-fi, where you will also get the full experience, because I'm too lazy to edit the Ko-fi.
Correct.
The Ko-fi
But
goes
that's
up
okay.
too quickly.
That is okay. We are all right with the Ko-fi being unedited. You can't join now, sorry, Jeff.
No.
Just not an option.
I love how he's just like, I want to join now. Okay.
Yep. Can't happen.
No
sorry,
worries.
buddy.
So funny.
We've got stuff that we're doing, so yeah. Sorry about that.
I hope Jeff is actually a friend who's just being, funny.
Yeah, being a bit silly, that would be
Being a bit
fine
silly.
by me.
That would be funny.
But yeah.
Now the noise don't sound so bad, huh? Yes. Is Jeff a known person? I don't believe so. Not yet.
No.
We'll figure it out.
But we'll see. We'll give Jeff enough rope.
Yeah, now the noise doesn't sound so bad, huh? Yeah, that's exactly right, Dom. The noise is nowhere near as bad when you know that you're getting rewarded
Yeah.
at the end of it. Ta-da! Okay, and the next bit that we're going to talk about is not going to be fun either. This is the topic I could give a presentation on in half an hour with no warning whatsoever, and also
Yep.
a horrible topic.
Yeah. I think I know where
Okay.
this is going.
No doubt. No doubt. So, I can't believe that it's been 20 years, honestly. Well, it's been 23 years now at this point since this happened. So, in an incident that has been termed the incident of the Tampa, it's also been coined the Children Overboard scandal. It's been called the Tampa Affair. Lots of different names have been given to it. But this incident, which occurred on the 27th of August 2001, has shown the myth that the White Australia policy is dead and buried is a fiction in this country. So, the incident on the Tampa is one that a lot of people our age will maybe be vaguely familiar with. A ship capsized off the coast of Western Australia and was picked up by the Norwegian freighter, the MV Tampa. The captain of the Tampa then radioed the Coast Guard in Australia asking to be able to make landfall, to be able to deliver the refugees to Christmas Island. The Tampa was denied. The 438 asylum seekers who had been picked up in the waters between Indonesia and Australia were left sitting on deck of the Tampa for 2 days. There was not enough food or water on board. The freighter, which had been en route from Fremantle to Singapore, answered the call from an Australian Coast Guard initially who alerted them that there was a boat sinking in the region. So, yes, the Tampa affair. Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Makeshift accommodation and bathrooms were organised on the open air deck, and pregnant women were among the passengers on board. A delegation of 5 asylum seekers was taken to see the Tampa's captain, Arne Rinnan. They pleaded to be taken to Christmas Island, which was a mere 4 hours away, and threatened to jump ship if they were returned to Indonesia, which was 11 hours away. Rhiannon told the Coast Guard he planned to take the rescuees to Christmas Island, which was duly noted. However, some hours later, Neville Nixon of the Department of Immigration contacted Rinnan to inform him that the Tampa was not to enter Australian waters, and if it did so, Rinnan risked imprisonment and fines of up to 110,000 Australian dollars.
I am keeping my mouth shut intentionally, because one, while I said it's probably not something that you're going to do, you immediately fucking rumbled me, and yes, it is. So I've already done a bunch of research on this topic. But I also noticed that Ed said in chat it was Johnny Eyebrows tampering with electoral politics because people were still pissed off about the GST vote. And yeah, exactly that. There
But
is
people were
nothing
pissed off about this as well.
Sorry?
But people were pissed off about this as well.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
There was a lot of
nothing
outcry.
in this country that quite unites people like racism.
Like racism. We said that at the same time. That was so perfect.
Man. Yep. Same brain. We're perfect together, babes. Like, this is why we podcast well.
Especially because I did the little whisper where I was like, racism.
Yeah, you were like the echo.
The echo. Yeah.
But yeah, like Australia is united by racism.
Yeah.
And
so
I am willing to
racist.
sit here and say it. Like, I'm not unwilling to be uncritically honest of what this country is like. Not just because I've experienced racism all of my goddamn life, but because I can look at the way this country works, both politically and from a citizenry level, and see the truth. Like, fuck, man. You'd have to be blind not to notice it.
Yeah. Yep. So was this what you were going to do yours on? Is that what you're saying?
Correct. That's all right. I can switch. We can just have an extended conversation about the Tampa incident.
I was going to say, surely not, because you know where this is going, don't you?
Yeah. I figured it might be the case. You briefly foreshadowed it at the start. And I did, for a second there, think to myself, oh, please, God, no.
No.
But
You've ruined all my plans.
It's all right. It's just research.
I honestly, when
It's
you
fine.
said it, I was like, oh God, don't tell me that this is the one she's talking about, because I reckon this is the one she's talking about.
Yep. And look, I knew there was a chance it could happen. It's not exactly an uncommon thing for people talking about politics in this country to want to discuss. It was a big event.
Well, and again, the reason I wanted to talk about it at the moment is because of all the talk we've had about immigration that's been coming up, and the change that Albanese made to his cabinet by removing the immigration minister who had previously been an advocate for asylum seekers and refugees. He was a legal advocate for them.
Yep.
His decision to remove him from the immigration minister portfolio speaks volumes to the direction that Albanese's ministerialship is heading in terms of their views of asylum seekers and refugees. So it's timely, which is probably why it was on both of our minds.
Yeah, 100%. Like, we are both seeing the writing on the wall.
Yep. And this is why it's so good doing a podcast together too, because I think it's that thing that comes from being in that marginalised space where you've got that Cassandra effect.
Yep.
It's the
I am going to
Cassandra
look
effect.
so fucking fly in that dress.
Oh, I am
just
so
saying.
excited.
I've got the tits to pull it off, babe.
You do. The wig's on its way. Ooh. Sorry, I'm scooping up my beans. Oh no, my beans,
That's a-
Rita.
That's an interesting euphemism.
Run, Rita.
Fucking love Bluey.
It's the fucking best. It's
It's good
fucking
shit.
bomb.
It is good
It's
shit.
such good shit.
Like we. This is our soft power moment. Is Bluey.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the thing is, we could own the world with just through Bluey.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
But they
Like,
didn't even, like the BBC make all of the royalties off all of the merch sales and everything though.
Yep. Yep.
Because we didn't believe in ourselves.
Yeah. Big same, Lily. Absolute big same. It is one show that can emotionally devastate me at any time. And Dom, damn, I'd scoop her beans.
I loved like Baby Race. Like, oh,
Yep.
oh,
I'm not even a parent and that shit fucked me up.
because you're a kid. You've got a mum. You had a moment when you were little and you stood up and you wanted your mum. And... Stop, I'll cry. Okay, Lily, all right, I'll stop. Let's do a cone instead. I sprinkled some weed in the top of my coffee.
I mean, fair enough.
Oh, it's so nice. It's so good.
Whatever blows your hair back, mate.
I want to make a coffee cup that's also a bong.
Oh, they exist. They're
Yeah,
called
but
the
I want
Wake
one
and
that's
Bake.
also a vulva. like-
They're called the Wake and Bake, mate. They exist.
Have you heard of my vulva belongs? I'm trying to...
I have not, but I will break my I don't smoke if that's on offer.
Yes. I am making everyone a vulva bong, don't worry. All my friends are going to have vulva bongs. It's going to be great.
Nice.
And I've double whammied it because it happened by accident. I was trying to figure out how to do it, and then everyone was like, oh, that kind of looks like a vulva. And I was like, it's just a shame that that's not the part where you put your mouth. And then I made it the part where you put your mouth.
Yes. That's the way.
Where's the other chat you're responding to? Nowhere.
Nowhere. It's only Twitch.
It's only Twitch. Oh, is there? No one's.
Yeah, no one's
I'm
chatting
just
from
checking to
my
see if
Twitch.
no one's chatting on your Twitch. They're all through mine.
No. Yep.
Jeff was chatting on YouTube, but he's.
Oh, yeah.
Is that a vulva-shaped vol-au-vent? Oh god, we're funny.
Oh, man.
Okay, you
No,
woun't believe
I
we were
can't
just
say
talking
that.
about the
That's
incident of the
inappropriate.
Tampa, would you?
No. This chat moves quick.
Doesn't it? Can't stay on one thing too long.
Oh, God, no.
Yeah. So it was in fact the Prime Minister John Howard who decided to prevent the Tampa from entering Australia. The decision...
No way.
Not racist, Johnny boy. Who could have seen that coming?
Old eyebrows himself. Holy fuck.
The decision heralded the beginning of a new executive-led change in policy, which has been the underlying basis of the approach to asylum seekers attempting to reach Australia by boat ever since. When the 438 asylum seekers left Indonesia on the Palapa, Australia's policy was to rescue asylum seekers at sea and detain them in Australia while their claims for detection were processed. If their claims were successful, they would be released into the community on permanent protection visas. If they weren't, then they would be returned to their country of origin. On the 8th of October, 6 weeks after the Tampa was told it could not enter into Australia waters, the Papua survivors were forcibly removed from the HMAS Manoora onto Nauru. In the intervening period, the Australian government had introduced a policy of boat turnbacks. So a lot of people like to credit the Labor government with the beginning of the offshore detention processing that occurred. It was in fact started under Howard but was formalised under the Labor Party. So it has always been a bipartisan policy to be as abhorrent as possible to asylum seekers and refugees.
The racism runs deep.
Yeah. Yeah. So the narrative that was being constructed at this time was that the Australian government were trying to prevent deaths at sea by ensuring everyone who got on a boat knew that the boat would not end up in Australia, and therefore preventing them from crossing the more treacherous waters that lay in between countries like Indonesia and Australia. They would land somewhere like Indonesia and decide they were safe enough there because they had no hope of landing in Australia anyway, and the waters were just too not worth the risk. Okay, sorry.
That's all good.
And this also forms another pattern that we see being used today with Australian immigration policy, which is they try and use a humanitarian angle to explain their inhumanitarian policy. So we're not going to rescue people at sea because it's just going to encourage more people to come. And so in order to save more lives, we're going to let these ones drown.
Yep.
And it's the same thing with offshore detention processing. The official government policy officially was to ensure that offshore detention processing was so abhorrent, the conditions were so abhorrent, and the chances of getting into Australia so minimal that it would discourage anyone from leaving the horrendous conditions they were currently experiencing in their war-torn, dictatorship-led, American-bombed backyards.
Yep.
That has been the Australian government's policy.
Yep. Standing orders.
Yay! Yeah, not everyone has access to media releases telling them you won't make it. No, though
correct.
I will say, if being someone who did travel throughout Indonesia extensively for my job during this time period, you would see billboards like where we have Pepsi and Coke advertised. There would be billboards purchased by the Australian government throughout Indonesia with big billboards that said dying at sea, not worth the trip, not worth the risk, like in several different languages. And it was just pictures of people dying at sea, refugees drowning at sea on these giant billboards all over Indonesia, just walking down the street. Philip Morris on one side, guys drowning at sea trying to get to Australia on the other. Excellent.
Yep. Then there was the time Morrison put out a game.
Oh, God.
Yep.
I am not going to go that far into the future with this particular topic.
No. No, we do have to. We
are
have to
gonna
draw a
skip.
circle around what we're talking about at some point.
So I'm not going to talk about the Morrison government.
Yep. It's a little too close to present day. We're all about the history of Australian politics,
and then trying to get
how
people
it relates to the current situation.
We're just trying to get people to look at the historical impacts and then look at what's happening now.
Yeah.
Because the thing that's really interesting, that one of the things I was going to talk about when we talk about facts and figures about refugees, is that whenever we have a spate of people or a spate of asylum seekers and we have this increase, they do the same thing they do with crime. They are now talking about this increased threat of asylum seekers and refugees and putting this narrative out there about how terrifying it all is, because they know we're going to have an influx of asylum seekers coming from Palestine, because we're engaged in armed conflict in Palestine. Whenever we
Yep.
engage in armed conflict overseas, a whole mass of people from those places, when they become displaced, try and make a new home here.
Yeah.
And
Surprise,
they want
surprise.
us, they're trying to make us angry at those people before they even start trying to come here, so that by the time they get here, they're like, oh God, this place is shit, actually. And they tell all their friends not to bother coming.
Yeah. No, and you're bang on the money. Like, it is
Yeah.
premeditated racism. Which is
Yeah.
such a weird sentence to say,
Yeah.
but it's the
It
most
is.
accurate way I can describe
It
it.
is. And Juzzy, the way you put it there, so they see it as die there or risk making it. Like, either you die there or risk dying there. It's just as bad. Like, what's the
Yep.
point? There's nowhere
You've
to
got-
escape to.
Like, as my nana used to say, 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Like, what difference does it make where you die?
Yeah.
Like,
And
not to get,
everyone would
not
rather
to get
die in their
too-
home country, wouldn't they?
Yeah. Not to get too dark here or anything, but it reminds me of a piece of advice I received when I was going through a really bad bout of depression. And a friend of mine said to me, you know, if you're thinking that you're better off not being here, sure, that could be an option that you take. But alternatively, if you've already decided that, like, that's it, you're done, why not do something that you'd never do if you were worried about preserving your life?
Yeah, exactly.
Go skydiving. Go fight a bear. You know?
Yeah.
Go punch on with a cassowary. Like, just to say
Or-
you've done it. You know?
Even my friend said to me, like, just something really fucking stupid, like a movie that your parents told you that you weren't allowed to watch when you were a kid. Like, even if
Yeah.
it's just something that simple, like, before you do it, just put on that movie that your parents told you weren't allowed to watch when you were a kid that you've never seen, just so that
Yeah.
you haven't died without seeing that movie. And then
Yeah.
next minute you're like, there's one more thing, or there's one more. There's always one little thing that you're
Yeah.
like, well, I might as well just watch this one thing. I might as well just do this one thing. I might as well just, like, you know?
And that was it. Like,
Yeah.
at one point in my life, that phrase saved me.
Yeah.
But it is very much, as you said, stay here and die or take the risk of trying for something better. And it's the exact
Yeah.
same mentality.
I'm wearing sunnies inside today just to keep the truth dark. Yeah. Gonna take on the Sharks at Bombard Dusk. Yeah, I know. It was a web game that Home Affairs put out, and it was gross. Honest to God, the imagination of Scott Morrison when it comes to horrendous things that he can do, he imagines doing to people. He gets off. Like, he wanks to the idea of people burning in hell, I swear to Christ.
Yep.
He rubs one out, the idea of the Browns burning in hell.
Absolute agreement there. That is his
Foul
that
little
is his
man.
kink.
That is his kick. Yeah.
And like
Crawls inside his little chicken coop and rubs one out.
and like I'm never one to kink shame, but in this one specific instance, brother ill.
I'm not shaming him for his kink. I'm just warning people that that's who they've put in charge of our country.
Oh no, I'm shaming him. 100%.
I don't mind what your kink is, but don't get off in Parliament House. Like, save it for at home. That's what
I mind what your kink is if you're in charge of the policy of an entire fucking country.
Exactly, yes.
Then I mind what your kink is. If
Yes,
you go and
brother,
have a fucking, you know, cheeky hand shandy of an afternoon thinking your horrible bloody thoughts, then that's on you. You know, you have to
for
deal with that with
sure.
whoever the hell is monitoring your internet.
But if you get off on the idea of forcing women to give a birth, and you also are in the halls
Yeah.
of power writing legislation on whether or not women have to give birth, oh, that's a worry. Because that's a kink. I know people have that kink.
Mm-hmm.
That's a reason that there are women out there who literally have like 9 fucking babies.
Yep.
Just saying, some men like fucking pregnant women. It's not a problem. Like, it's okay. Just saying,
Yeah.
don't let those men be in charge of writing policy.
Yep.
on pregnancy.
I mean, in pregnancy, kink is definitely a big thing. You're absolutely correct. And keeping people away from writing that policy is also something we should be aiming to do. Like, if you
Look,
have
I'm really
an
into fucking
impregnation
pregnant women, and there
fetish-
just aren't enough of them. So,
Yeah. Like, swear to God, if you have an impregnation fetish, get a snip. You can pretend all you like
All
without
day.
any of the associated risk. It's fucking great coming from
Yeah.
somebody who has had the snip. Like,
yep. I was going to say, when I, like, you know, obviously being on birth control, the amount of times you're with someone and you've been with them for a certain amount of time and you get to that point where you're exclusive or whatever, and it's the first thing they want to do. And you're just like, I just don't want to have to deal with the mess.
Right.
Like, I just don't want to deal with the mess. I really am not interested in anything the penis does, to be honest. Like, it's just... Sorry.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I get it. Shit's messy. But mind you, I'm sorry. I just saw Lily's messages. I just read chat again.
Me too.
No. Chat, if you don't know what it is, Google Hugh Cow.
No!
I dare you.
Don't.
Do it.
Don't.
Do it. Do it. For the meme. Do it.
Don't unless you're going to record your face as you look it up and post it online for
Right.
us to laugh at.
Right? Yes. Yes. Make a TikTok specifically. Tag us in it as you Google it. It's got to be centered on your face so that I can see your reaction when you realise what it is. Because the first time I found out about it, I was like, oh, that's...
Yep. Look,
Well, that's concerning.
I'm
I
not
think
gonna
I'm
ya-
into something I didn't realise I was into.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not. There are some things that just make me uncomfortable, like for reasons you can't really explain.
I need to stop talking.
Jesse. Tom. I think about that whenever I think of that "Welcome to the Internet" song. Whenever I think about internet porn, welcome
Yeah.
to the internet. I'm like, yeah,
Yep.
not
exactly.
very long ago,
Yeah.
just before
Agreed.
your time.
Agreed with Lily there. That's how half the kinks started as jokes that suddenly became less of a joke
Yeah,
and more of a regularly searched.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
This is one of the reasons, though, why I really like to stick to the cartoon porn websites, because whatever you stumble across,
Yep. Yep.
you know, no individual human being was harmed. Oh.
Got him. Just out here splashing bandits.
And I will not select images. I know. And look, it happens. What can I say? Anyway, moving on. This is, again, it's one of those conversations that makes me uncomfortable for a reason I can't quite put my finger on. And I'm not ready.
Yep.
Did you know, guys, did you realise that most of your kinks are inherited from one or both of your parents? Yeah. Get ready for all porn from now on to make you really fucking uncomfortable.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
You stop that right now. This is illegal. and I'm sending you my therapy bill. Because there is almost nothing that I'm not into. So you've just exposed my parents as the weirdest fucking people. And, like, I thought I was bad.
Hey, Lily, I thought my mum was in the closet until my sister stumbled across her bag of sex toys. She tried to pretend they were my dad's. I looked at her and said, Mum, how many sex toys did you find and steal off me through my teenage years? Like, I spent hundreds on sex toys. Don't tell me those aren't your sex toys. Like, I am your daughter.
Right.
Like,
Right. Oh my god.
No, I love to embarrass my mum by shouting all kinds of things in public that I know give her the same feeling they give me. Because I'm like, whenever we're out to dinner, I'll always make sure whenever the waiter's coming up, just at some random interval, I'll just go, you know what they say, up the bum, no babies. And she's like, Tamara. And I'm like, I know you love it, Mum. I'm into anal, you're into anal. It's genetic. And she's just like, Tamara. Oh, she threw away your toy. That's not fair. My mum did the same, but she would just find them and throw them away because we were in a cult and you weren't allowed to have toys in the cult. So she wouldn't talk to me about it. She'd just throw them away and then I'd just buy another one. I had some female outfits my parents also threw away.
You're a good dog.
See, I've got a big dress-up box that's got all the clothes in it, and my kids dress up in anything they want all the bloody time, and it's, you know... I was so young when I first found it, little baby. Cute. Okay. Nice kitty. We won't talk about our parents' pornographic interest anymore. Then I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Don't you love having found out that information though?
I already knew it. I just played it up for fun. I know my mum's a fucking freak.
I mean, my dad is a freak. I remember when I was younger. When I say younger, like 18, 19. I came home from lunch one day because I'd been out pioneering, and my dad came home and he'd like roared into the driveway, and he came inside and he's half taking his tie off as he comes in the door, and he stops and he looks at me. I'm at the table and he goes, "What the fuck are you doing here?" I said, "I came home for lunch. I came home to have lunch with Mum." And he goes, "Well, I came home to have lunch with your mum." And I went, "Okay, radio." Anyway, and then he's like, "Well, you've got to go." And I was like, "Okay, radio, like, yep, I'm going." Anyway, and then I went out to my car and I was sitting in my car texting, and this is how much of a prude my dad is. He comes out the front with a towel wrapped around him to yell at me to get out of his driveway and go. And I'm like, I'm in the front yard. I'm on the front verge. If you're that loud that I can hear you out here, you've got bigger problems, Dad. He's like, "Shut up. You know what the fuck's going on. Get the fuck out of my house."
I mean, first of all, if things are getting that loud, impressive. Good work. Like, bravo.
He put the radio on really loud from the time I was really young. Like,
oh my God.
Yeah. You opened the door, Tamara. I was ready to overshare. Yeah.
Lily,
my dad is into some
I don't
shit.
get the reaction either, Lily. I really don't. Like, people go on here sometimes. That's just part of life, especially living in apartments. You know, people go on here.
Yeah. That doesn't bother me as well. They're going to. It never fazed me. The only time I've ever bothered about noise or anything like that was when I first started dating my ex. His housemate used to like listen at the door.
Oh no!
And then like mock me and like send videos and stuff. Like, you know, there was a video of like a turtle. I don't know. Oh, whatever.
The turtle fucking the Croc shoe, going.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know the one.
Yeah. So, like, would just send me that video and stuff. And I was just like, I know you're jealous because you wish I was fucking you, and I'm not. So you want to make it so awkward that I'll stop fucking your friend.
Yep.
But, like, sending me this is not making you seem at all attractive. And then he started dating a girl. And they would both sit there and listen at the door. And, like... Anyway.
Sorry, I read Lily's.
I had a roommate that would listen to me, so I started walking in the shower, but then
It's
I
not
just...
walking.
Oh,
It's not meant to be walking.
yeah.
Now every time running water. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Okay. Let's continue.
Maybe that's why I wank
sidetracked
whenever the
once
radio
again.
starts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, we know how to get you turned on, Lily. I'll put that away in the memory bank for later.
I mean, if Lily and I happen to be in the same room, you can get both of us switched on at the same time, bud, because same Pavlov reaction.
Yeah.
Running water,
Alrighty.
man. That's such a weird one.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dom.
Wanking. Oh, cold shower will never work on me. Oh, Lily. I've overcome it. Yeah, it's taken me, I mean, yeah, I have many, we're not going to go into that now. Let's not.
Yeah.
We're going to get seriously into it. I'm having many frustrations in that department we can talk about later. It's okay. So, what?
Nothing. No.
Are you having issues in that department?
Oh, God, no.
Oh,
No, I'm
it's
I'm
been
sweet,
like
babes.
3 years. I have not been able to get off for like a month. And it's not for lack of trying. Yeah. I'm going to go see my doctor. I'm like, I need to go see my doctor because for me it's like usually 3 times a day. And right now I'm like, I'm getting very annoyed at people for no reason, for just existing
Yep.
and breathing too close to me. Anyway, just haven't played any team sports in a while. Yeah, me either. No team sports in a while, purely training. Oh, God.
I love that. I love that. That's funny.
I come back in the chat. What the fuck have I missed?
A lot of horniness, Ed.
Lots of horniness. We're all talking
Ed,
about how
have
horny
you
we
ever
all are.
Googled who cows?
No! No! Ed, don't. Don't, for the sake.
All right, let's continue.
I was going to say, share this tab. No, I'm not going to share this tab.
Oh shit!
So,
I'm sorry. Don't Google that. I'm just playing.
rightio. So, 6 weeks after the Tampa was told it could not enter Australian waters, the Australian government had introduced a policy of boat turnbacks. So, when the 438 asylum seekers left Indonesia, the Australian policy was to rescue boats at sea. Within 6 weeks after they had been denied entry to Australia, the official Australian government policy became a policy of boat turnbacks. And as I said, this was framed as a life-saving attempt to stop people from coming here and drowning. In the attempt, we'll just make sure that if they come here, they get turned back. Now, a couple of other really important things to know about these boats. They often run out of fuel before they even reach Australia, which is why they often had to be rescued in the first place. They do not have enough supplies on board for the one-way trip, let alone a two-way trip. These people are very, very desperate. They don't have a backup plan. There is nothing else for them. So
Yeah, it's like full send.
yeah. So a policy of boat turnbacks is 100% a policy of death for asylum seekers. And the Australian government at the time they made this policy were aware of that. They were aware what this policy, the implications would be.
Yeah, what it meant.
Yeah. So I just read the comments. I'm like, whoop, that's back onto the.
Yep,
So,
yep. We're ignoring the comments at the moment.
yes. So the ability to both construct and implement this policy, given that there was only a few months before an election, was an extraordinary achievement of the Howard government, particularly given it involved a lot of complex negotiations with a foreign country, being Nauru. So again, people credit the Australian Labor government with the beginning of offshore detention processing, but this is the birth of offshore detention processing, and it was started by the Howard government. So also in this 6-week period, there were 10 other boats, which were now officially labelled suspected illegal entry vessels, or SIEVs, that attempted to reach Christmas Island. It was a period of high drama. The Australian Navy was under orders to forcibly return boats to Indonesia under Operation Relax. Now, several boats during this time sank while under Navy observation. Despite the best efforts of Navy personnel to rescue asylum seekers flailing in the open sea, many drowned. In the case of Sieve 4, the fourth boat identified, cabinet ministers seized on a Navy communication feed that children were being thrown overboard. They immediately made the allegation public. Howard and his immigration ministers declared these were not the type of people that Australia wanted. Whew. The government maintained its reliance on unverified naval intelligence right up to the federal election on November 10 without providing the Navy with an opportunity to correct the record. This politicisation of Navy information was the subject of a Senate inquiry in the next Parliament. Boats ceased arriving altogether after the Sieve 10 sank on October 19, killing more than 350 of its 400 passengers. The exact circumstances of the sinking of Sieve 10 remain uncertain. There can be little doubt, however, that its sinking had a significant deterrent effect on asylum seekers in Indonesia, considering the journey to Christmas Island by boat. So once again, the Australian government's policy of just treating these people as inhumanely as possible had the desired effect.
Yep. And again and again and again, we see from Australian political leaders just this vast, yawning ocean of just...
Yeah.
Fuck, I don't even know the words, man. Like, it's just a complete lack of empathy for human beings going through hell.
Yeah.
Like, how can you look? And this is the thing that I will never understand, right? Is how can you look at a person who is struggling, who is going through hell, and not feel for them?
Yeah.
It is part of the human condition to feel empathy for your fellow person. That is how humanity has survived. That's how we propagated as a species, is we looked at another person who looked like us, and when you have less, I have more, here, let me help.
Yeah.
And somewhere along the way, that was taken, but the ghost of it still exists within people's subconscious. That's why you can watch a movie knowing that the characters are being portrayed by actors. It's all fake, it's all staged, it's filmed for your entertainment. But you can still feel fear because the character is afraid. You can still feel sorrow and grief because the character is grieving. And yet, because someone doesn't look exactly like you.
or because they're background characters, because we haven't given them enough screen time, because we can turn them into 350 odd people in a boat rather than having them be a featured extra whose backstory we know and whose story we know and who's the right shade for Hollywood and who's the right height for Hollywood and who's got the right dental work for Hollywood. We dehumanize them, and
And that's something particularly now that
yeah,
everybody in this country has to watch out for, is dehumanizing
Yeah.
rhetoric.
yeah,
Because it is being
abso-fucking-lutely.
used.
Yes,
It is being used by our media in the way that they discuss Palestinians, in the way that they dehumanize Arabic men
yeah,
by saying X many women and children killed out of 400, but they don't mention that the rest of them are Arabic men because Arabic men are lesser than
yeah.
in Western media.
But even Arabic women are less than in Western
absolutely.
media.
Yeah, 100%. Like,
They're either victims of their culture, or if they stand up for their culture, they are.
brainwashed.
Like, you look at what happened to Yasmin, yeah.
Yep.
She is chased
Yep.
out of this country because she had the audacity to stand up for her religion. God.
Absolutely.
And actually, talking about offshore asylum seeker processing was the big thing that, funnily enough. Oh, who would have thought a Muslim woman complaining about our offshore detention processing wasn't welcome in this country?
Yeah, right.
Shock.
Who could have foreseen that?
Who could have seen that? Exactly. So. Oh, all right.
It just boggles the mind. Like, it really
It does.
And
Yeah.
it hurts a bit to consider that potentially the person who serves me behind the counter at a petrol station or at a bar holds those sort of thoughts.
Yeah.
Like, the lack of empathy for somebody that doesn't look like them.
Yeah. Yep. So there's a couple of different things about the reason that the Tampa sort of changed everything at the time as well, and a lot of it has to do with what happened shortly after. So the Tampa reached the Palapa on the morning of the 26th of August 2001, which was a Sunday, minutes before the Palapa disappeared into the ocean. His crew rescued everyone on board, including 43 children and 3 pregnant women. The law of the sea mandated he bring the rescue passengers to the nearest port, being Christmas Island, again, being 4 hours away, as we discussed earlier. But was instructed by the Australian government to take them 11 hours away back to Indonesia, which, and where we left Renan at this time, he had just been threatened that if he did enter Australian waters, he would be threatened with jail time and a $110,000 fine for himself. So he turned his ship away from Christmas Island to start off with, but he was petitioned by those on board. Their health was getting worse and several had slipped into unconsciousness. He told Australian officials, the medical situation on board is critical. If it is not addressed immediately, people will die. For the 3rd time, he turned the boat towards Australian waters. He crossed Australia's maritime boundary shortly before noon on the 29th of August. The Australian government advised him that he was in flagrant breach of Australian law, and when he anchored off of Christmas Island's Flying Fish Cove, they sent 45 SAS troops to seize control of the ship. Peter Tinley, who was second in command of the SAS that day, would later report he had been briefed for a potentially hostile and dangerous situation.
Okay, we're going to take a small pause.
Yeah.
The fact that he says that he'd been briefed for a hostile and dangerous situation is setting him up to be more likely to be trigger
To
happy.
shoot. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I just wanted to point that out to chat.
Yeah. And that's why I had to laugh when I said it, because he had been briefed for a potentially hostile and dangerous situation as an SAS officer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're being called in, it's dangerous. If they're telling you that it's a dangerous and hostile situation, you're going to assume it's 100, 500. Like, you know what I mean? You're an
Yep.
SAS officer. It's already dangerous if you're there.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And like, this is a ship, a vessel that has its crew and sick
Yeah.
asylum seekers.
Yeah.
How
And that's what
fucking
he
dangerous
said.
can they be?
He said, instead, I found 400 plus ordinary refugees, very hungry, some who needed medical attention urgently, very scared and uncertain about what was happening, and particularly a very concerned sea captain who just wanted to offload his human cargo and discharge his duty according to international law.
Yep.
So he's now found himself in this legal situation, Captain Arne Rinnan. So by the 6th of September 2001, he finally made it to Singapore. But the decision about what was to happen to him wasn't handed down until the 11th of September 2001. Mm-hmm. And it was handed down that morning, thankfully. If it had been handed down later in the day, it might have been a different outcome.
Yep.
So, a handwritten note was also thrust into the hands of the Norwegian ambassador who had come on board with the SAS officers. It was a formal request for asylum in Australia. You know well about the long war and its tragic human consequences, and you know about the genocide and massacres going on in our country, it read, which is talking about Afghanistan at the time. Again, Australia was at war
Yep.
in this country.
Troops on the ground.
Troops on the ground. We have no way but to run out of our dear homeland and to seek a peaceful asylum. In Canberra that evening, Howard introduced the Border Protection Bill to Parliament, giving the government sweeping powers to refuse entry to people seeking asylum by sea. The act would be made retrospective to 9 a.m. that day, 2.5 hours before the Tampa entered Australian waters.
You're getting this, right? You're understanding the parallel that we have to today, the raising
What
of
were
the
they-
terror threat level.
They
You're
were-
getting this, right? The reason we're talking about it.
They
I
were
just want to
racing
make sure
to
that the
try and
subtext isn't lost on you.
they were racing to try and get immigration law reform passed before the Supreme Court of Australia could hand down a decision saying that they were treating immigration detainees unlawfully. Who did that? When?
Oh, yeah. I wonder.
Yeah. Howard's not in power anymore, but it's still happening. Who would have thought?
Yep.
So this would be just the first in a sweep of dramatic legislative and policy change that would transform the Australian asylum regime. Australia would legally excise Christmas and other islands from its territory for the purpose of migration. The Defence Force and Border Authorities would be given new rules of engagement to intercept and force boats back to Indonesia. And a Pacific solution was negotiated with Papua New Guinea and Nauru, allowing Australia to build detention centres on their islands. The Tampa also changed the way Australia understood and spoke about the movements of people. Migration became an issue of broader protection and threats to national security. Those arriving on boats were no longer asylum seekers, but illegals. Ministers would publicly allege asylum seekers could be murderers, could be terrorists, and that whole villages were coming to Australia in uncontrolled floods. We have to admit that while the Tampa is the ship that changed everything, the crisis did not exist in a vacuum. And the fact that the decision regarding the captain of the Tampa, Captain Rinnan, was handed down on the 11th of September, definitely played a part in the pushback that occurred afterwards. The Australian government used the decision, the fact that these people were basically allowed to come here and the Australian government had no power to stop them, as grounds to push through even stronger legislative changes to protect the borders from terrorists. So,
Read brown people.
yeah. It came at a time as well when there had been escalating numbers of boats arriving to Australia's northwest, from 298 to 5,500 in 2001. Though our boat arrivals have only ever made up between 1 to 2% of our migration. So they've never been a large portion of it at all.
Yep.
Now, here we go. And we talked about the Kiev. Here we go. Yeah. All right. Here we go. So, Philip Ruddock was the immigration minister when the Tampa arrived into Australian waters. He says he remembers the morning of urgent phone calls and a meeting with Howard before a quick cabinet meeting. It was initially understood that the Tampa would sail for Merak before reports that Rinnan was under duress, that he and his crew felt very much at risk, and that he would head for Christmas Island. He was told that he couldn't bring the vessel into Australian waters and that he should turn around. So the message that was being delivering to them was that the captain felt that he was under risk. The captain maintains, and the Navy even maintains through communications like that they had back and forward, that the risk was to the people on board, as in their health was the risk. This message was being either knowingly or unknowingly twisted as it went up the chain. Are you doing okay, Maddie? Yeah. Should we have a little break?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm okay. Love you too. Thank you for checking in on me.
Yeah.
No, I'm okay. I'm just this shit makes me angry, and it makes me want to headbutt an entire cabinet of politicians, just for some existential payback. No, and I appreciate you. You definitely caught a change in my demeanour and personality. You were not wrong with that. But I am all right. Thank you for checking on me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, Ruddock says, since in reflecting on the circumstances of what happened at the time, he says now, I don't regard it so much as a matter of border protection. Rather, it is a matter of maintaining integrity and helping those who need help the most. I have a long-standing, passionate view about the need for Australia to be a humane country, helping refugees who are most vulnerable. That is not what we did. That is not what we're doing. Today, we have more than 80 million people displaced around the world. 30 million of those have been found to be refugees. To those who criticise our policies, I ask, can we take them all? I assert, if you can't take them all, who do you take? Do you take those who've got money and who are free enough to travel, or do you take those who are the most vulnerable? Who are the people we ought to be resettling?
Well, I mean, that's all well and good, Philip Ruddock, but there was a time when you had power to enact that policy. And now when you're out of office and out of politics entirely, all well and good to have the fucking realization later.
Yeah.
Well done. You're trying to clean up your image, but you're still the cunt that delivered the policy, Ruddock.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah. And, even at the time, Ruddock said that the decisions that came out of the Tampa's arrival were appropriate. And at the time, he said, were guided by the initial rationale to maintain integrity in the migration process. So he's not saying that he thinks that what all they did was horrendous. He's saying that it's not all about protecting our border. It was about doing this humanely and trying to make sure the people who came here were the most vulnerable and not just the people who had a lot of money to pay people to come over here by boat. But that's not what you were doing, Phil. You can try and convince yourself in hindsight that, you were trying to make it fair for the people who couldn't afford to come here.
It genuinely reeks of, I haven't had a good night's sleep since I passed that policy and I'm trying to make it up in my brain so I can sleep again. Yeah.
I did a bad thing and I want Mum to forgive me, and so I'm going to make up in, hindsight what it was really about. Yep. Do you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of that time Tati Westbrook got upset at James Charles because he promoted her competition, Sugar Bear Hair, and she tried to make it about him doing all this other dodgy stuff, but it was really just she was annoyed because he promoted her competition's hair vitamins. But then it turns out he was doing all this dodgy stuff, and then she tried to cover up and cover for him because he was advertising her hair vitamins.
Yep. Oh my God.
That's what Ruddock sounds like.
Oh yeah.
He's like Tati Westbrook with Sugar Bear hair.
My nesting partner was deep into drama YouTube at the time that was happening. So I'm a full bottle on that whole situation. Thankfully, I've managed to pull them back from that because drama YouTube is the most toxic place on earth.
Oh, it's not. Yeah, it's not good.
You can
It's
can
good if you're
find
laughing
my
at
YouTube
them.
channel. Come at me if you want to, drama YouTubers. I don't give a shit.
Oh no, me either. It's fun if you're sitting back and laughing. It's not fun if
It's awful.
you're engaging at all. Do not engage. Do not engage.
It's awful.
It's like when you see the videos from the random people who are beefing with their friends and they tell you this whole story and you get engaged just because you're like, I could never bring my beef with my friends to the internet. This is, it's so cringe. I can't look away, like a car crash. It's like that.
Yep.
That's what I feel like when I'm watching drama YouTube.
But like,
If I want to shut my brain off.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Getting back to Philip Ruddock trying to whitewash his own image for himself. Juzzy's just mentioned George Bush Jr. As an example. Like, he is trying to change his image now, rather than being the crux of a terrible war that America had no place being in yet again.
Or tourism.
He's now trying to paint himself as this fatherly figure who does paintings.
Oh, I'm sorry, Lily. Yours will be here soon. You can smoke calendula. You can smoke calendula and it gives you really good dreams. So maybe try drying some calendula flower in the meantime. I got nothing else. Sorry. I can't think of what else. Sorry.
Probably does.
Oh, I smoke mugwort too.
Mm,
I haven't smoked catnip before. Is it good?
Yeah.
I often mix calendula and mullein in with mine at night time just because it makes it a bit nicer to smoke too. It makes it taste nicer, nicer for sleep. Bush Senior and Junior War Criminals and Traders. Yes,
Yep.
correct.
100%.
100%. Better as a tea, but nice mixing with some green. Very true. Okay. So,
Let's continue. I've ranted about Philip Ruddock enough.
all right. Yeah. So Justice Tony North was the duty judge on the federal court when the Victoria Council for Civil Liberties filed an urgent case to the detention of those on board Tampa. And for people who don't know, Julian Burnside was the lawyer who was defending the asylum seekers and the captain in this case. So, amazing man made his name in this case, even though before that he had not been doing this kind of work. He'd been doing a lot of work in union and
That's quite the shift.
corporate, and it was just, it's based on the cab rank rule. So in Australian law, if you're the next lawyer, you're the next cab off the rank, you have to take the case unless there's some reason you can't. He could have actually said no to the case because he was supposed to be going away on holiday. But his partner said, no, you have to take this case. This is going to be massive. This is going to be absolutely massive. You can't say no to this. So he was like, oh, okay, then fine. And thank fuck, because he's one of the most brilliant legal minds we have in the country.
Oh, my word, yeah.
Yeah. So the judge says that it was a dramatic and dynamic situation. The case repeatedly seemed to shift. The sands of public opinion were constantly shifting. There were constantly new declarations coming in from the Prime Minister. There was new legislation being passed that was relevant based on the fact that they kept predating it. And there were new developments that kept coming through from the deck of the ship, and information regarding misinformation that the government had been pushing about what was happening that morning on board the Tampa, including the information or the miscommunication about the duress that the captain was feeling, and the information that the Navy was hearing that was being sort of transmitted across naval radios that the government was grabbing and using to bolster their stuff, even though they weren't checking that it was correct or not. It was just chatter that they were hearing on the radios.
Yep.
So the Navy were pissed at them as well. The Navy were trying to get them to stop doing that. So Judge North said that they were very determined for the reputation of the federal court. They were very determined, for the sake of the reputation of the federal court, that the matter be determined quickly and try and keep it as respectful as possible. There were people at sea, troops going on board. It was a minute-by-minute proposition. At one stage, we were contemplating taking evidence from sea. In a judgment delivered just hours before the 9/11 attacks, North found the 433 people on the Tampa were unlawfully held there by Australia, which had committed to retaining complete control over the bodies and destinies of the rescuees. So, at a distance of 2 decades, North's position remains. He says, I thought that if the law didn't provide for the state to answer for holding those rescuees offshore in a confined space with nowhere else to go, that sounded contrary to basic legal principle. He saw parallels with the 1939 case of the MS St. Louis carrying 900 refugees from Nazi Germany. The ship was refused entry in Cuba, the USA and Canada before it was forced to return to Europe. A quarter of its passengers would then die in Nazi death camps. So North's judgment, however, was overturned 2-1 by the full bench of the federal court after the government appealed. The court ruled, in the words of Justice Robert French, later Chief Justice of the High Court, that the government could stop those on board the Tampa from entering Australia. The power to determine who may come into Australia is so central to Australia's sovereignty that it is not to be supposed that the government of the nation would lack the power to prevent people not part of the Australian community from entering. As North points out, the 4 judges who heard the Tampa case, 2 decided in favour of the government's action, 2 against. The result, he says, could easily have gone the other way. But if you stand back a little bit and take a helicopter view, what stands out now is that that court case has become something of a footnote because we live under a system where Parliament is sovereign. At the end of the day, Parliament decides what it wanted to do. The government wanted to pursue its policies, and in a failure of moral commitment, the Labor Party fell in behind them. Mm-hmm. I saw that as a real moment of moral reckoning. You had a decision of the court that allowed the government to say, we will take the humane approach, and that opportunity was missed. So, yeah, if only that was in place when all the white cunts came over. Tell me about it. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Now, as we saw back from 1901 with the White Australian policy that we then saw with our first, what was the name of the first ship we spoke about?
Oh, God, I don't remember, mate.
That was like a full hour ago, 2 hours ago.
And then some, yeah.
The Petriana on the 28th of November, 1903. All the way through to the Tampa in 2001, August 2001. Mm-hmm. You can see that nearly 100 years later and the face of Australia has not changed at all. So,
and still to this day continues exactly as it was.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I just thought that was a really great way to talk about the White Australia policy and to try and talk about try and bring up some discussion about our current discussions around immigration. So, some of the facts that I wanted to talk about in terms of immigration were, first of all, hang on, where is my page? I know, isn't this bad?
That's all right. Don't worry.
Always.
I get it.
Here we go. Nope.
Lost a tab.
I did. I lost the tab. Here we go. So, one of the most important things to remember is that migrants are a massive reason that the labour productivity market is boosted. It's not really possible for us to be able to boost the labour market to the extent that we're able to through immigration just by native-born workers. For a start, the cost that goes into producing a native-born worker to the age of 18 on behalf of the country is actually quite a big investment to have them, like all that resource that goes into it, versus a migrant. It's actually a massive boost to the economy, and I'm just talking about all the reasons like that people are stupid for complaining that migrants are stealing their jobs. So, on average, a region with a 10% larger migrant share, say like 0.33% or 33%, sorry, instead of 30%, had a 1.3% larger regional wage difference, which links a very, like there, it shows because it's more than a 0.2% difference. There is a effect, there is a non insignificant effect between migration and wage growth for all workers involved. So more migration means more wage growth for everyone involved. So especially when you're talking about healthcare workers, STEM workers, the kind of work that is very intensive to sort of, you know, she stole my job. She's a neurosurgeon and I didn't finish high school. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Now, some other things, some other myths as well is that as far as getting on the welfare payments, you can't, basically. There is no welfare payments. Even someone who has been working in the country and paying wages here, unless they have already been naturalised as an Australian citizen, so not a permanent resident, not on any sort of visa, they have to be naturalised as a citizen before they are able to get any kind of benefits, even if they've been living here and paying taxes here for over a decade. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yep. That is one of my least favourite arguments, like against migrants, because it is just so stupid and provably incorrect.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter how many times you tell people. They don't care.
No. They don't. And the frustrating thing about it as well is you can tell people facts all day, every day. They're only looking for the facts that are going to back up their racism. Yeah. Like, you really just have to say to these people, just admit that you don't like looking around town and seeing brown people. It makes you uncomfortable. Yep. Which is just a sign to me that we need more brown people around your town, because if you saw them more often, you'd be less easily scared by them.
Maybe.
Well, it's true. Here we go. There's actually this is actually another one of the benefits of migration, that people being exposed to more diversity actually makes people less likely to experience things like culture shock. And less, open. There we go. Okay, it's opening. Here we go. So in a study that was done, and this was a study in, when was it done? What year? Oh, fuck. It was done into the economic, social and cultural impacts of migration in Australia. And it was done over 33 years. And it finished, what year did it finish? What was it you published? 2010, I think it was published. Basically. And one of the reasons that I found this particularly interesting was because one of the areas that they did it on was an area that my family came from.
Oh, yeah.
And they chose an area because it was the second lowest socioeconomic and also the second lowest rated health area by CIFA measurements. The majority of its residents considered themselves happy to live in the area and believed that one of the strongest assets in the city was its diversity, because it was already quite a diverse community. Now, there was another area that they did, and I can't find the name of that town, so I'm not going to mention it, where they picked it because it was a bit of a wealthier area, obviously. But this was, it was over 33, and I think there were 7 different areas that were taken part of in the study. You can look up, hang on. I looked at so many different studies, and I think I'm mixing them up. Hang on. Anyway, basically what they found was that having more people around, having more representation, people of colour in the community made people more willing to accept people of colour. So, and seeing people in the community more often speaking native languages, so speaking their languages from their home, made people over time more accepting. So they would introduce people to different communities, like communities that didn't have a very strong Punjabi community, and they'd put a couple of Punjabi families in the area and have them, like, they're speaking language and they're interacting with the local community and going to the local shops and things. And over time, like when they first moved into the area, there was a big pushback against it. But after a few years, and then naturally other families of that same culture start moving in, and you start noticing, it's like word spreads that there are people who speak our language around here and they're speaking in public and they're not being harassed. And it's almost like it naturally changes the makeup of the community by having them being present and being a part of the community. And it makes communities safer overall. So migrant communities, they face barriers to things like secure employment. There's a lot of lack of recognition for their overseas skills and qualifications. There are a lot of barriers that make it harder for them to access services as well. But they bring a lot of community with them. So they... sorry, loud noises.
You're right.
But they bring a lot of culture and a lot of community with them. And they do bring a lot of skills with them as well. As I said, like, talk to your Uber driver next time you can't afford to go and see the doctor.
Yeah, ask him what he actually does.
Yes. But one example that this paper pulls out is the Vietnamese community, because there was a large... During the Whitlam government's changes in policies during the 70s, there was a large increase in Vietnamese people coming in, as we mentioned earlier. They arrived in Australia in large numbers, mostly as refugees throughout the 70s and 80s. And despite language barriers, cultural adjustments, and other sorts of issues that they face on arrival, today they have a well-represented, flourishing community business sector. They play an important role in broadening social, cultural and business relationships between Australia and Southeast Asia. And the Vietnamese culture in Melbourne is recognised, throughout Australia as having that really strong and recognised significance as well. So to having nothing there in the 60s and the early 70s to suddenly being like nationally known, like the Vietnamese culture,
Yeah.
like you know about Richmond, like in Melbourne, everyone fucking does. So, so many former Vietnamese refugees and their children and all their children have prominent roles in their fields in the community and are well recognised and well recognised and well regarded in the community and even outside the Vietnamese community. So the Vietnamese example just shows how much we benefit from migration and immigration
Oh yeah.
as a society, and there's a whole food culture that now like has spread nationally. Things like rolled, for example, that have spread and become chains. And you know, we kind of take these things for granted a little bit, but we wouldn't have them without our immigrants. We wouldn't have them without asylum seekers and refugees. We wouldn't have them. And again, as I said, when you look at the economic differences between having an immigrant coming in to do any work in our society versus having someone who's born here, just on an economics perspective, if anyone wants to complain, we should be complaining about all of the white people, the lazy white people.
Yep. Absolutely.
Because statistically, they cost a lot more to employ, and they cost a lot more to raise. So the community has to spend a whole lot more raising them. So, migrants often also take up have a much smaller impact ecologically. They have a smaller demand on infrastructure. Spending on things like food, clothing, electrical appliances, and housing are all a lot smaller in migrant communities. Illegal activity is also a lot less in migrant communities. By the time their first generation has been born here, they're the same as everyone else. It's like being born here is what makes you a criminal, not being a migrant. Migrants don't do crime. It's the ones born here that do the crime.
Yeah. Exactly right.
So there's no risk on that front either. And so as well as all the economic benefits, they also help Australian employers fill critical labour gaps that are often left by Australian people who don't want
picky
to fill those roles.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's actually a lot of benefit to having skilled migration, or just having any migration come in, really. It doesn't need to, like, I don't like the term skilled migration. All migrants are skilled. Yeah.
Like, because that also, I mean, the term skilled migration comes from the idea of capitalism anyway, that
Yes, exactly.
unless you've been to university, then the job you're not working doesn't require skills to do.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but working retail requires a certain set of skills, mostly the skill to hold yourself back from punching someone in the face when they're rude to you. But that's still a skill. Like,
Yeah.
you know, there's no such thing as unskilled labour. All labour requires skills.
Yeah. No, exactly. Exactly. 100% agree. 100% agree. They don't want facts, they want confirmation. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. That's very, very true. And I feel like whenever we have this discussion around immigration, everyone wants to have, because we're having an emotive discussion, right? We're talking about how now I'm not going to go any further into that. I don't think I need to. I don't need to continue talking about the benefits of migration, do I? Do we want to keep talking about that? I have more to talk. I could talk about it more.
We can if you want to, but we are getting long in the tooth for this episode.
Okay, no worries. We'll stop talking about it then. That's fine.
Not to be like pushy.
No, that's okay. That's all right. There's just lots and lots and lots of benefits to migration. Don't let me,
Absolutely.
you know. So, whenever we start talking about the emotional reasons, like people are, because obviously there's emotional reasons, people are seeking asylum, they're trying to escape situations they have been living in, they're looking for a better life, and we appeal to that emotion by saying, you know, imagine if you were in that situation. So obviously they're trying to appeal to this emotion in us where they say, but they're going to steal your jobs and they're going to make your life harder. But that just isn't true. We're
Yeah.
pointing to a real emotion. These are real people who are really suffering. And they're trying to create fake emotions, anger and outrage and fear that is completely false and unnecessary.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was the episode for today.
Right. Well, thank you so much for going through that. Like, genuinely, I know often when I speak, I come across as sounding sarcastic, but I do
Not at
want to say thank you so much to not only you for doing all of the research, putting everything together, and delivering it in a way that, despite your, fears, wasn't nearly as boring as you thought it would be.
No?
No, not at all. Not at all. It was actually quite interesting and informative and very relevant to where we're at now.
I tried to
and
pull out all the
that's-
examples because it makes it a bit easier, I think, when it's not just... And then they passed this legislation so they could do this awful thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and that is important to know it as well, because so many people don't understand the purpose of certain legislation passing at certain times or certain government actions. They're just like, oh, they must know something, as you said earlier, because they're in a position of authority. People assume they know something we don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Appeal to authority.
exactly right. Exactly right.
Yeah.
But I would also like to say a big thank you so much to all of you for joining us for this week's dive into the depths of the trash fire that is Australian politics. If you've enjoyed what you've seen, make sure to drop us a follow and do all the usual engagement things to help us get the word out there. You can find Tamara and myself on the social media links in the description below, but for now, it's garbage day, so the girls gotta take the trash out. Bye.
Bye. Huzzah. So...
I actually segued really nicely into that
You
outro.
did. That was impressive. I was impressed. I'm very impressed. I was perhaps going to pop up on... do you want to do the game for a bit? For the last hour? 45?
I am going to have to dip.
You can dip,
because
yeah.
I do have some stuff that I
dip.
have to accomplish today.
Dip away. Dip away.
Juzzy,
We
just so
accomplished
you
something
know,
today.
just so you know, Juzzy, it was actually me speaking. That wasn't a audio transition.
Yeah.
And thank you, Gremlin. Yeah, that wasn't a pre-record. I was speaking. But yeah,
Yes.
I've got some stuff that I need to do that requires me leaving the house before the shop shut, unfortunately.
No worries. You do that.
So yeah.
Enjoy.
right.
Well, I'm going to restart the stream then so that we can play the game. Is everyone up for that? So, oh, that's right. So now what you've got to do is I have to... So this is what I'm going to do. You ready? This is what we have to do.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Ooh, leaving the house. No, we're not leaving the house. What we're
No,
doing...
I am.
I am going to hit go live on my other one just quickly. Ooh, it's transported it over to here. Void wrap up. I'll call it a wrap up. There we go. Confirm and go live. There we go. Now I'm going to end the stream over here.
Okay.